Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Wow, what a shift by the kids. Second effort all across the board on the boards to keep that play alive.
Pasternak, center, they score! Grab that puck. Morgan Geeky's going to fish it out of there.
Cross-ice beach dog. Edvey watching the line. He'll fire it. He scores! May have been deflected in front. Martone acted as though they got a piece of it. Fires on the board with a 1-0 lead.
Now Castellan, he scores! Mark Castellan smoked that one by Dawes.
Marcus lifts this pretty deep. It's got some carry to it to left field for Ward. Back to the wall, and it's gone. He's done it again. Ildemar Vargas makes it 3-2 Diamondbacks.
They feel like a big league.
Pass launched to left. Herrera has tied the game. He goes one to left. And there's a fly ball, left center field. Trout has launched again as Grisham runs out of room, and the Mike Trout show continues on Broadway.
Ziegler rips it past Garcia. Left field side. Let's see the wheels from the rookie. He's on his way home. There's not going to be a close play. He's in headlong. McGonigal scores and the Tigers lead.
The Nebraska bullpen going back and forth.
Back up the middle. Carey gathers and throws out Rice. Jay Sean Unger delivers the first season series win for the Huskers against the Blue Jays since 2017.
Good morning. Welcome in. Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Mail Medical. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. What's up, DB?
How we doing?
Oh, we're doing all right. How are you?
Well, I was already blowing up Next Gen this morning, so they're like, well, I don't even know what we signed up for. This dude is pretty high maintenance.
Oh, what'd you need?
Oh, nothing. I just was looking for what amino, just a little tender.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, trying to ramp up. What we got? No, Nick, responds right away. They'll take good care of you. It's been, I don't know, man. I'm pretty pumped. It's been one of the I've done some great, really good quality endorsements.
Yeah.
They've been fantastic.
Yeah.
Just because it's so customized.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like, oh, it's just me. And I'm like, wait a minute. Nobody else is in there with me. I think it is just me. I don't know. That's pretty cool. No, nobody's firing off texts at 6:10 in the morning that has a real job.
It is. He's very responsive.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
I'm not mad at it at all. I think I'll have to wear some more gear tomorrow.
How's the hand feeling?
That's better.
It looks a little better.
So, according to the great Dr. Tao,
you can make a little fist now.
Just keep trying. He said, don't force it. I was like, yeah, too late.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's nothing like DB to take a little bit of advice and go overboard with it.
You seem very hurt right now.
No, we're good. We're good, man.
I do like that West Side hoodie though. That's a nice looking. I like that one.
You like that?
Yeah. Or not hoodie, just a little zip up. Does it have a hood?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a little zip up hoodie.
It does. It got a little. Trying to introduce a little more white in my wardrobe. So I'm gonna baby step it, not just go all white, but baby steps.
Not like mine where I'm just like,
Yeah, bam, there it is. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's quietly a good day for sports, even though I'm still mad at he cares. I was gonna send Lindor a hate message.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of him. I'm watching.
Don't be that guy that's DMing people, man. Don't do it.
No, that's so stupid. I was counting the scoreless innings.
Mm-hmm.
This son of a gun he gets him off the schneid in the first inning.
Come on, man.
And I was like, really, Francisco?
What are we doing?
But then they proceeded to go scoreless the next 8. So right back at the string again.
Well, at least they started a new one for you.
Yeah, I scored 1 run in 3 games.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to their offense, but
it's pretty bad.
I'm sure the Metropolitan fans are alive and kicking. I can imagine the media is really patient with the New York Mets as they just continue to spend money and not yield results.
Yeah, it's kind of astonishing for the amount of everybody gives the Dodgers a hard time and whatever. But The Mets have not been far behind in spending,
which is weird because everybody would want to be everybody wants their owners to be like the Dodgers.
100%. That's why I'm mad about it.
You know what I mean? Like,
because John Henry used to spend money, and now he's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, more like John Brown.
Like with the cave, or
no? I watched you ever watch a Pivot podcast?
Sometimes.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown's dad, who's infamously named John Brown.
Yeah.
Acts a lot like you'd think a John Brown would act. Very traditional.
Yeah.
Like hard on his son type, demanding John Brown. Yeah, well, I'll be. So I was like, fudge. But then I thought that the Yankees may have turned it around after the 11-10 onslaught the other night, and nope.
No.
They're back to not being able to hit.
Don't need them to do that. Don't need them to turn it around.
They had Detmers out there looking like, I'm sorry, Suave. Like I love the Brooklyn hat too. So by the way,
Ty or Koi?
Neither.
Oh, okay.
This guy actually pitches as a lefty out there acting like John Tudor last night, shutting down the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine Yankees fans are going to be patient considering it's April 15th. You probably don't have to check back in until June 1, maybe.
It probably helps that the rest of the division isn't like killing it.
Well, nobody is off to a great start that you think is going to be a player.
I mean, you guys are.
Outside of the Dodgers.
Yeah, you guys are. 13-4 is pretty good.
And it's by far and away the best record.
Yeah, I think closest is 11-6 after that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been like a scalding start for most teams.
The Braves are starting to get it going too.
Yeah.
Which if they ever got like healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I just assume their roster is going to fall apart in about 2 months. So
yeah, it's uncanny.
Yeah,
even when they won it, I mean, they had a losing record almost at the halfway point.
Yeah, and they were still pretty banged up. And I think the only reason they
found a way to get it going,
able to stay healthy through the playoffs, is because it was like a 60-game season.
Yeah, you think Trout is? I hate to say it, back. He's not hitting for average yet, but he's. I think that's 3 home runs in 2 games.
Yeah, because he had 2 yesterday, right?
No, he had 2 the day before.
Or 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago.
And launched again yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm actually cheering for him, even though he's an Angel. Like, I'm okay with. I want him. People just like they turned on him, wasting his career and didn't market the game and always hurt. So now I'm like, me, I'm like, I think I'm cheering for that guy.
I didn't care about. Yeah, as soon as everybody else is out, you're like, sign me up.
It's not true. Exactly.
It's a little true.
Smidge.
I never had anything like against him. I did think I don't know, we do this a lot. Like a guy will have, and it was a great like 9-year start to the career ish, right? But you fast forward, and we do this with guys all the time where it's like, oh, now all of a sudden people are doing it with like Jokic and SGA right now. They're like, top 10 player of all time, top 15 player of all time. And I was like, we're not there yet. Like we're projecting a lot of things, but there's how many guys in the NBA would you be like, oh yeah, if they keep this up for another decade, then they're a top 10 player of all time. And they keep it up. Like Dwayne Wade is a great example of this. If he had kept that up for as long as LeBron kept this up, we're having a whole different conversation about Dwayne Wade, right? Yeah. But 2 years into that thing, he was a shell of himself, and we're done. And he's like, it's probably the 3rd or 4th best shooting guard of all time, but he's not anywhere in a top 10 list.
No, not 10, but
he's a great player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, 2 guards. He's arguably maybe the most Wade has some staggering stats,
and he had a phenomenal run.
Yeah,
even pre-LeBron.
Yeah.
But we were in that point, like 06 playoffs. You go even a couple years later when he was arguably better than he was in the 06 playoffs, right before LeBron. 9. Yeah, right before LeBron got there. And then you go, okay, you're looking at this guy and you're like, oh man, like he's gonna make a run at Kobe, right? For like, you're like, it's gonna be him and Kobe as like 2nd best shooting guard of all time behind MJ. And then it just, by 2013, probably 2012.
What do you think it takes to be? How long do you have to do something at a high level to be considered blank of the GOAT of the era?
I
Because
mean,
it's that middle crux of that era is really hard. And I heard this is on the heels of a couple guys said yesterday. Was it Quiet Please? It was one of the golf. No, it wasn't Quiet. It was. You think Rory's the best golfer of his generation?
so that would be like the post Tiger prime.
Yeah.
So anything after like 09-ish, right? Is that when the first accident happened?
Yeah.
So the last 15 years, basically.
Is that considered of his generation?
He's definitely the most popular, I think, of that generation.
15 years, I feel like, is a new generation.
Back-to-back Masters. He's one of 6 to win all 4 majors.
How many does he have total versus
Now, he
Scheffler?
took the gap from 2014 of winning one.
Yeah, but he was really good.
He was good.
He was still really, really good in that time.
There's no way. It hasn't been long enough, Ken.
For who?
For Scheffler.
So that was my only other.
It hasn't been long enough.
I would almost argue he might start like the next decade, but there is some overlap there.
Because what's the difference in majors between Scheffler and Koepka?
Well, I was going to look at the difference between majors between Rory and Scheffler.
Well, and he was marketed as being the next guy, the next Tiger Woods too. Rory was.
Yeah, I know. And remember, we used to have.
That's not his fault, though.
I know.
Like,
I
try not to hold that against guys.
Me neither. I get that, Shane. I do. But remember, we used to have. Yeah, Koepka has 1 more major.
Yeah, Koepka's got 5. Scottie's got 4.
So I mean, it's early on. Early on Scheffler, even though Scheffler's consistency is at a greater level.
I would argue Koepka is more tail end of Rory's era. Like his last one is in 23, right? His last major, but most of them are in the teens, right? It's 17, 18, 19, basically for Koepka, whereas Scheffler's are all post 2020.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Chucky Chuck, about basically better already. I'm just saying you can't get the generational tag if it's still.
We're doing the same thing with Scheffler that I'm arguing against right now, where it's like, hey, off to a great start.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but there's still a lot of work to do here.
Oh, I don't. Why couples, HP? Because of being in the shadows during a good portion of his career. Or maybe he's talking about longevity. It's interesting. Couples got off to a good start. You were quietly cheering for him on Thursday, weren't you, Shane? Old sweet swinging Freddie Couples.
Oh, Freddie,
guy that manages the worst the worst of the bad backs.
I mean, Couples is because Couples only has the one, right? Major.
A major, yeah. I'm almost positive he only has one.
That might be, is a tough. That
might be. That's why I said that's why I want to know what the qualification.
Yeah,
is he just talking about the longevity? Because I do think Couples only has the one major.
Yeah, I think he does. Was it like 92?
I can't remember. I was in high school. Yeah, I was. That's about right.
Like it's early 90s. Right?
That's about right.
So I don't know. I struggle with that one because.
Maybe he's talking about. I don't know what he's saying before I.
Yes, or maybe just overshadowed by the greatness of some other people. Let's see. So Rory's Rory's 12th all time, tied for 12th all time with Phil, Nick Faldo, and Lee Trevino with 6 majors. And
yeah, he just has the one major.
That is
staggering for Couples.
Rory McIlroy is only one behind Arnold Palmer for all-time majors.
No, I know.
So, he's better than some of the guys we're talking about, especially considering
significantly.
Especially considering he took a decade break, but was still really, really good during that time.
I just wonder what the duration is.
Yeah,
the whole Kobe, Tim Dunk, the era thing. Or of their generation. I feel like this is an amazing Daniel moment where we have to get what the parameters are.
We got to define what we're talking about here. But I mean, and I'll be honest, if you take out guys whose careers finished before 1960, all of a sudden Rory's 6th in all-time majors. I'm not saying those guys don't count, but you know what I mean? A modern, and since 1960 isn't even that. We're talking 65, 80, 65 years there.
Shane, remember early, this was 12, 13 when I was first going every day. We were talking about guys, golf games that when they go on a run have the like the spurt ability to like crush the field. And I remember, maybe I'm misremembering, Shane, but weren't we basically talking about Rory and Dustin? Like when they got going, it was like, forget it.
You know about it, yeah.
Part of the thing for me is with Rory, and this, again, it probably shouldn't be held against him, but the aesthetics of how, like, you're always sort of just waiting for the other shoe to drop, at least now in his career, because it happens so often that even when he wins the Masters, you're like, ooh, man, held on to that one. You know what I mean? Like the last two, especially like the last 2 years, you just go, it doesn't. Like,
I don't know. That's part of it, though.
It is, but I think because there were also some high-profile failures in there, then we don't give him credit for like, oh, being clutch and coming through. We're like, oh, he lucked that one out. You know what I mean?
Oh, HBDK, he was just talking about likability.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. So for a while, I felt like Rory got the boost when when Liv came up, and Rory all of a sudden became the spokesman. We forgot that he hadn't won anything of significance since 14, and he just said all the things as the representative of the tour that we wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Like he was pretty outspoken, and I was like, okay, Rory.
He was definitely the most high-profile guy to talk like that about the Liv guys.
Yeah.
And to kind of defend the PGA Tour that way. So that did give him, I think, a huge boost in popularity. Whereas, and like we really don't kill him for the decade break. Like we don't.
No.
Because we like him.
It took a long. So, and when we were having our golf guys on, I would ask the question specifically, why does Rory get a break?
Yeah.
Like we let him off the hook.
For sure.
And I think back then, Shane, the answer was his consistency. Because he was hanging around the top 10. He was still playing pretty good. He was playing good golf.
Yeah, and I think let me find this here because they
even when he was changing drivers every 15 minutes, like his game never fell off.
Wikipedia does a great job of giving you like finishes here.
And to have a second run like this, I mean that's amazing. Kind of on the back, towards the back half of his career there.
Even though he looks sensational.
So he really does. So from the time that he won the 4 between 11 and 14. And then he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And we had all
8,
those
9,
many
10,
discussions
11,
with Speed.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. He had 20 top 10 finishes at majors.
That's the thing. I can't remember who was the funny caddy we always used to talk to who would say some off-brand things.
Yeah.
It wasn't Robert Lucetich. It was the funny caddy. He was hilarious. Oh my God, Shane, you gotta like.
I'm looking it up right now.
I mean, and he was a great golf guest.
Yeah,
and he had like these strong, hot
Brad Klein.
Brad Klein. Yeah, and he's got this great accent and.
I'll say he was a guy with an accent, right?
Yeah. That's Robert. That's Lucetich.
Oh, okay. I remember you guys talking.
Who's gotten super political. I was like, I don't know, man. Like this is a little dicey on my timeline.
Well, he's hard to get. He's out on the West Coast now, so.
Very much in the political realm. But anyway, like the whole generational thing, because it goes back to like the Trout thing, or I look at. I was playing this game. I wasn't playing a game. HP. He was asking me a trivia question last night, and I was trying to answer the questions without. I mean, this stat is staggering. I got to go back and get it, and I couldn't get it. But let me see if you can get this.
Okay. But yeah, I do think the 20 top 10 finishes. That's basically 2 a year. In his drought, like so that like he's always there.
Because this baseball thing is going to be hard because Judge really didn't get going.
He's late. He's like 27, but then
we talked about this like 28, 29.
But then he had like 3 years where he wasn't that good again. Like he burst on the scene with 50
early, yep,
and then had like 3 years where he was like injured and had some issues. I think COVID was in there, and then popped back off again. So like his body of work is not that good.
And I know you study like those crazy bond stats because you just sent me that TikTok.
I love it so much.
Some of that stuff, I hate saying never.
No, it's never happening.
It's never happening.
There's only There's only since Bonds retired. I think this was in the video I sent you. Since Bonds retired,
I gotta send that to the guys.
There's only been 14, I think, seasons of individual seasons that were higher than Bonds' career OPS.
It's some of this. I just was shaking my head.
It's on his.
Send that to the guys.
His baseball reference page is one of my favorite, just like random sitting on the internet pastimes.
So it's like
I just sent that to you, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So the next go around, like to quantify this deal, is going to be incredible. And I'm taking him at his word, because the only one I could think of that would be close is Acuna, and I didn't like fact check, but so DK, he was like, "Hey, baseball quiz." Barry Bonds and one other player had 50 homers, 70 stolen bases, and a 3+ defensive WAR in their first 3 seasons in Major League Baseball history. Who is the second player? So
Bonds didn't have 50 home runs in his first 3 seasons. Oh, you mean total?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, he didn't have a 50.
Yeah. So I thought it was. So I said Acuna and Bobby Witt Jr. Those were my
50 homers, 70 steals. What was the other one?
The defensive WAR in their first 3+ WAR.
My immediate guess was Ricky Henderson.
Dude, and I think he's right. It's Anthony Volpe.
That's random.
Isn't that something?
That's one of those things where you got to be careful about, like crowning guys too early.
And I was joking about, look, he's all pumped over there.
Rico, I'm sending you this Bonds thing real quick.
It
might be too long to play. See how long it is, please.
I don't know, man. It's pretty. Yeah. How did Kobe? That must have been a stat they had on the broadcast, because Kobe's a Yankees fan too.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
Because that was a deep cut, and I know Husker P is he's a Yankee honk.
Yeah. So I mean the Aaron Judge part of this is fascinating, right? Because his first full year he hits 52 home runs. Second in MVP.
I think, was this just me and you that went through this? Because this wasn't. We've talked about where he goes.
So he went. So that was at 25. So he had the rookie of the year early.
Yep.
But then 26, 27, 28 age seasons, and that does include COVID. So that's not totally his fault. And he goes 27, and 9 home runs. Doesn't crack a OPS over 1,000 in that run, or even the next year.
It's funny how you say 1,000 like that's something to thumb your nose at.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're talking about a guy,
that's
I understand. But if you're
looking for an elite benchmark,
yes. If we're talking about a generation, like best player of a generation,
that's fair.
And listen, since then though, since 21, he's gone 39 homers, 916 OPS, 62 homers, 1,100 OPS. 37, 1,000 OPS, 58, 1,100, 53, 1,100. So he's had a run.
He belongs in that discussion.
21 through 25 has been bonkers.
Yeah.
So the Barry Bonds thing is 18 pictures. It's not a video.
Oh, it's
like a slideshow.
All through. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has audio.
Yeah, but it's pictures. It doesn't like go by itself. You have to scroll through it.
Okay.
Damn it.
I have the pictures downloaded if you want to go one at a time, but that's going to take a while.
No, it's fine. It's incredible though.
Yeah,
it's staggering.
It's ridiculous. The man was a freak, and all people remember is, oh, well, he took steroids and he hit a bunch of home runs. And it's like he had 2 Hall of Fame seasons. Or he had not seasons. He had 2 Hall of Fame careers.
Yeah.
So
2 separate Hall of Fame careers.
He had 2 different body types, 2 Hall of Fame careers.
I think this is going to be, I think, with some of his statistics, it reminds me of the Gretzky and assists and point scoring. It seems at first blush, sports historically, that Gretzky is Bond's only comp.
Oh, that's interesting. Off the jump, probably.
Does that seem right?
Yes, because that's the famous, like, you could take every goal away from Gretzky and he'd still be the all-time leading
And this
scorer.
is on the heels of whatever Ovi's gonna do in hockey. I mean, my man is first in a lot of categories.
Yeah,
including goalies scored on. He's gotten everybody. I mean,
I'm not big on hockey, so I'm just trying to make a comparison. This could be very stupid of me. Is Ovi kind of like a LeBron James type where he'll break a bunch of records, but people might not look at him as like the GOAT because of somebody else's accomplishments?
So getting off the schneid and winning a cup helped Ovi.
Yeah.
But for most of his career, and maybe this is just me, Sasha may have to chime in here.
Wasn't even the best player in the league.
I'm not sure he was ever considered the best player in the league.
That's the tough part.
Now, maybe he was. It's very, very debatable.
He was never like the consensus best player in the league.
And I used to argue.
Maybe consistently he was, though.
I don't know, man. I used to argue that I take a healthy Crosby every day.
But that was early, though.
Yeah, I get it. But, I mean, Crosby just won a...
When the Penguins won the last one?
1919? I think I would know.
I'll look it up.
And it's getting further away post 26.
Well, and he quietly did it too, though.
Sid?
No.
Ovi?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for a while they weren't playing any meaningful postseasons.
And it wasn't on the radar.
Give me the
17.
17. Yeah. 17. Yeah. And then the Caps won it in
18. Yeah. The next year.
So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a hot take, Rico, but not.
I think again, I don't know that much
because
about
people talk
either.
about Crosby's playmaking ability too, like making other guys around him better. And Sidney's peak was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But
like if I said, again, this is me just trying to make sports comparisons because I don't know hockey all that well. So like if you said like Sid was like Kobe and Ovechkin was like LeBron, where like Sid was doing all these amazing things and Ovechkin was also doing this, but I guess he was never the best player in the league is what you guys are saying. But he has like maybe better accomplishments aside from the titles, I guess.
I don't know if he's ever not. I feel like that's pretty controversial, but maybe it isn't.
So the problem with the comparison there is there were stretches where LeBron was absolutely the best player in the league.
Yeah.
But in terms of a career, like nobody ever thinks of LeBron.
LeBron's not an empty stat guy, though.
He's not. And here's the thing. Yeah, LeBron's stats have always directly impacted winning, right?
Whereas he's not an empty stat guy.
That argument could not be made for Ovechkin, I don't think. But here's
now that part is true.
So here's where I think Rico's right, and what I immediately thought of is like nobody thinks of LeBron as one of the best scorers of all time. But that number might be damn well untouchable.
Yeah.
Right? The total points number. Whereas
because how many times he's got a weird stat on amount of points scored considering how many times he's led the league in an individual scoring.
I think just once.
I think it's
he's
one.
Only led the league once in scoring.
Which I don't think anybody would ever get in trivia. But he was probably the best player in the league for at least
a decade.
8-9 years.
Yeah, probably a decade. Yeah. Like, I think you could easily make the argument from, and I don't know that it's all in a row.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, because there's a couple years, and I know people are hammering me because this is my guy. Like, there were a couple years in LeBron's prime where Curry was the best player in the league.
And early on, like
Kobe was
yes,
like in the 07, 08, 09 range.
Yeah, when they won when the Lakers went, Kobe won too, like. Dude was the best player in the league.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would not argue with that. I would argue on the front end, there was I mean, how much better was LeBron than Dwayne Wade actually in like 06 through 08?
Oh, I know. And remember they had the famous handing over the team and whose team was it and how
that's why they lost in the first year.
Was appreciative that Wade finally acquiesced.
Yeah, that's why they lost in 11 to the Mavericks.
Now, Bruin Steve is a good person to talk to because I think this is probably accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Shane, he says, we'll look back at Ovi and appreciate his career and say he didn't. See, that's kind of how I think. That's why I didn't give you immediate pushback, Rico, because he is a stat sheet stuffer, but I think we kind of think empty.
Yeah, like empty calories.
So if I
but he is prolific. He just had a hat trick like 3 weeks ago.
How much do we? So this is an interesting conversation that we have,
and I think he leads the NHL in career those too.
This is an interesting conversation we have with empty stats guys, because the guys we like, we say, oh, they never had any help, and the guys we don't like, be like, oh, their game doesn't affect winning.
Oh, I don't know. Give me one, Barkley.
I would say, and this is one
because I don't think Barkley gets that rap, and I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah, I don't think Barkley's an empty stats guy, because I think his team,
I sent you an empty stats list.
Yeah, here, let me send it to. I'll send it to Rico here.
It's just hoops, though.
I know who Ravi wants to say.
I got one, and I think it's a hot take.
I mean, an empty stats guy is Russell Westbrook. Like, his team, you were only ever going to be so good with him as your best player.
They're not empty stats, but I'll give you a similar comp, maybe to Ovechkin. This might be a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Ovechkin, Emmitt Smith.
I was going to say Walter Payton.
Walter, that might get us kicked out of here.
One championship.
That might get us kicked out of here.
Emmitt's tough because
Walter is held in such mythical regard.
He is.
I don't think we could get it. I'm not. You have to fight the mob on that one.
So Walter was like the only thing that they had. So I can't really say that it's empty stats.
So at least that's the,
I kind of agree.
That's the where is his help argument.
I kind of agree.
That's the where's his help argument versus empty stats.
Yeah, like if you're the only thing there, you have to get the stats.
I'm not going to fight you over that, because even for the Emmitt lovers, they will admit that offensive line,
probably best offensive line of all time,
was sensational early in his career.
Yeah. Like when he was doing a lot of that work and having his best years, that offensive line was unbelievable.
But you look at Emmitt's place in rushing history. Was Emmitt? Did we ever look at Emmitt and say he's the best running back in the league?
I don't think anyone, in terms of just, I don't think anyone
Shane,
ever thought he was better than Barry.
Call Severe and give him audio. Ask Severe if he wants to come on for a second. I need like a true NFL historian.
I don't
Does
know.
it make it worse for Emmitt that he like went to the Cardinals and did jack nothing, but that's where he got the record?
I actually do think that hurts him. That he got the record like limping to the finish line with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I think that.
And I think people knew he was playing just for the record.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and here's the thing that.
But wait a minute though. I need a Shane. Is Ovi is regarded as better in his sport than Emmitt was in his?
I would say yes.
Gotta be.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think anyone really nobody thinks Emmitt Smith is the best. Like no non-Cowboys fan thinks Emmitt Smith is the best running back of all time. Most people,
a lot of Cowboys fans don't think Emmitt was the best Cowboy running back ever.
If Barry Sanders didn't exist, Emmitt would have been the running back of the 90s.
I don't know.
But Barry Sanders was considered the best running back of that decade.
He
was first on the old decade team too.
So who if let's say Barry Sanders doesn't exist.
You know
who else is it?
You know who's really underappreciated, and I think Thurman Thomas is in that discussion. I mean,
Thurman Thomas didn't really have the whole decade though. Right? Like he fell off by like 96.
No.
We got Severe.
All right. Hey, Zone, you with me?
Yeah, I'm driving. What's happening?
Hey, do you like just being on speed dial?
It's fine. 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 It's fine.
When I say to you running back of the 90s, who was it? NFL.
You know, Emmitt Smith.
Okay.
They won 3 titles, right? And put up a ton of yards, and he was on one of the best teams. Who are you deciding between?
So I'm trying to. This is hockey too. This is where this whole thing came about. We're trying to decide what is something of a generation, right?
Oh yeah,
the blank of a generation. Whether it's Rory McIlroy or that's where it kind of started. Then we were talking about empty stats and longevity. And you and I have had a conversation. We have had knockdown drag out arguments over where longevity belongs in a discussion, right? Like how long, and I've come around.
Yeah, and like the durability of Emmitt Smith is like his superpower.
But for where Emmitt's records are, where is he in the top 10 of your running backs?
I think he froze on us.
Oh, he did freeze. He looks like he's
more complete back in that conversation we're having. But longevity has to count for somebody, right?
Yeah.
Are you there? Sorry, I'm driving on Center, and there's that spot by Exarban where it just drops out. Sorry, I'm back.
No, I'm with you. But it's where in the superpower rankings?
Oh, okay.
Like where does longevity rank in terms of like if you're trying to slot guys within a decade or a generation, like where does this person's longevity rank versus like, hey, and he's probably in a different discussion, but like Terrell Davis had like 3 or 4 incredible years, but it was just those 3 or 4 years versus a guy that's just really good for 8 of those years.
Well, I've had this conversation with Damon, and it's never me being mean when I say this, but we know that availability is the number one ability. And if Damon was healthier throughout his career, obviously has a different career, right? So it's incredibly important. How many times you can take snaps and go through practice healthy contributes to how great you're going to be in the end, right? Being there, taking snaps is important. And you may not be the best back. I guarantee, you all know this, you grew up with people who were better players than the guy who made it. But for whatever reason, they weren't there when the snap happened, right? Whether it was injuries or other things off the field. And so, yeah, it's incredible. I think it's number 2. I think there's pure running ability, running back position we're talking about, right? Pure running ability, and then being able to be out there in practice and in games for so many snaps. Did you ever watch what Emmitt Smith went through every week with the acupuncture, the massage? He was like way ahead of people just so he could be out there and he went through all this stuff to make sure that he was healthy. But so who are you saying is the back of the 90s?
Well, I wouldn't give you any pushback on Emmitt in terms of his totality, but there's guys that I think like belong in the discussion in terms of being good runners, like Marshall Faulk or
See, I think of Falk more like I get he's.
You're thinking 99.
Yeah. Like I think.
I mean, he was good in Indianapolis, but he was in Indianapolis,
right? But I mean, he starts there in what, like 96,
94. I think he was in Indy 94 to 98, and then I've looked at we go back and forth about Marshall Faulk, so I'm very familiar. I think he's 94 to 98 in Indy, and he's 99 to 05 with the Rams.
Yeah, you're right.
Those are the years, right?
One of my favorite backs to watch, and it's not one of Damon's backs, but over the course of 1 year, what Ricky Waters did in that Niners system was incredible, right?
Like
I mean, that 95 Super Bowl year when they played the Chargers, he was so good at everything. He picked up blitzes. He caught how many casts? He had a bunch of catches. I don't know what the total was. And then he ran the ball too. He was perfect for that system. So there also is in that list of 7 or 8 things we talk about, we do have to talk about system placement, right? A guy who fit like Terrell Davis in that stretch zone scheme, just perfect for him. Edgerrin James in that scheme was absolutely perfect. So I think scheme and situation is a big part of how we identify the best too.
Edgerrin James seems like a guy that should have more than 12,000 yards.
Yeah, because what he rushed for like 7 yards a carry? That's what it felt like, right? Every time they ran that play, he went for 7 yards.
He's got to be right around 5 for his career. But I just don't see how Barry isn't the back of the 90s.
Right. I think part of it is, and this kind of sucks too, part of it in the end is how much you won. So when you're thinking back on this, we talk about nostalgia a lot, right? Because nostalgia isn't exactly what happened. It's the way you feel about what happened. And so when I look back, and we all look back, you remember Emmitt winning Super Bowls with those Cowboy teams, and you remember Barry winning, one playoff game out of all that time? And, and I've always talked to you about this, and I think coaches, and you're as a coach, the amount of times he lost yardage trying to do stuff outside of the system had to frustrate the hell out of them occasionally. It had to, right? I mean, all the big plays are great, but the losses where you go from being 1st and 10 to 2nd and 12 had to drive them crazy occasionally.
Yeah, but again, when you have that kind of yards per carry, nobody's thinking about that. I think it just became kind of the popular thing. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a note in his career, the amount of times he had lost rushes in terms of the amount of rushes he had. I know that's a note that comes up. It might be in his wiki. I'm not sure if it's in his wiki, but that's one of those where when you're making notes about his greatness, the bad note is lost yardage carries.
So hang on, I got a guy. Emmitt got robbed in '95 with the MVP. Who won the MVP in '95? Favre?
Steve Young?
No, Young was 94. He won it the.
I think was it Favre?
Oh, 95 Super Bowl, right? Yeah.
Was that Favre and then Rice?
I'm bad about the MVP. I know the MVPs. You talking about in the Super Bowl or for the season?
Season.
I'm looking at it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't. The season ones, I'm not very good at. I remember the Super Bowl ones.
Prolific. I'm going to guess Favre, Rice, Emmitt. This is right in the house.
95 was Favre.
Okay, who was 2? Does it have voting? Because Emmitt wasn't even second, I don't think.
Yeah, it was Favre, Rice, Emmitt, Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. That's awesome. Almost took the call to the Super Bowl.
AFC Championship game.
They should have beat
so
the
that
Steelers
was
in that one.
One of 3 in a row. That was the first of 3 in a row that Favre won. Young won it the year before when they won the Super Bowl.
When they won the Super Bowl, yeah.
He also won one in '92, by the way.
There's a couple of other things. What constitutes for you as empty stats? And I don't mean something obvious like Russell Westbrook, because I know you don't watch the NBA.
Yeah, no. So the only thing that I always do is, and I know that Ravi's into a lot of the analytics sites and stuff. You know, they determine that as being the game's over, you're playing in non-crunch time, and then what you get at the end. And there's a lot of players, especially quarterbacks, who've been really good over their careers. A great example of that is for the Saints when Derek Carr would have these huge fourth quarters when the Saints were down 18, whatever, and he'd have all these huge numbers in the fourth quarter. They wouldn't win the game, but you go, look, he had a great game. Well, how much of that actually was when the game was being competitive? So that's what I think of.
But you know who I used to feel like that about?
Breeze?
Andrew Luck.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was kind of giving me Andrew Luck vibes a little bit because he would have these monster second halves.
Yeah.
And I remember I was doing supervision at a North basketball game, and they were playing the Chiefs. It might have been in the postseason. And this dude had a second half, and I'm like, shoot, he had to throw for 500 yards all in the second half. It was like 50-47 or something ridiculous like that. But so empty stats for you have to be something that is the opposite of actually winning.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you put up, people talked about Breeze getting into the Hall of Fame, and they were talking about these years he had. And remember, 3 of those years they were 7 and 9. And yeah, he put up 5,000 yards, and he had these games. He had a game against Carolina in the season where he was trying to get to 5,000. I remember that. And I'm like, so they're not going to the playoffs. They're not a great team. He's putting up all these numbers, and do they really matter in the end when you're judging him? I guess they do in the grand total of saying he threw for this many yards, but number of those seasons were just empty calories, in my opinion. That's an example that I've used with Breeze, but I don't like Breeze, so okay. I find the bad stuff about him.
I'm gonna go back to the running back of the '90s thing just for a second. Is Emmitt in your top 10 running backs of all time?
Yeah, we've done this number before. He is. He's in my top 10. Yeah.
All right. Stop me when there's somebody that you take Emmitt over.
Okay.
Walter. Do I even need to ask about Walter? You're taking Walter, right?
You know I love Walter.
Okay. Barry Sanders.
No.
Adrian Peterson.
That would be no. Well, that's closer for me, in my opinion. Yeah. Okay. No, I wouldn't. I'd take Adrian Peterson probably in his era. I wouldn't take Adrian Peterson on that Cowboys team.
Dude,
I think the way Emmitt fit.
Running back of all time.
I'm talking about empty stats. He had a ton of empty stats.
Dude.
Adrian did. He did. Yeah, I know he won that co-MVP, and that was an incredible year. But I don't know what it is. That's part of I don't like him, because he beat his kid, and so that's probably I got prejudice against him. I'll admit I got prejudice against Adrian Peterson.
What about LaDainian Tomlinson, who I love?
Yeah, I know love him. That's really close.
Okay.
For me.
What about Eric Dickerson?
Well, I take Eric Dickerson over everybody but Barry Sanders.
Okay. What about Jim Brown?
That's almost impossible to judge because the era he played in. He was playing against guys who were plumbers during the offseason.
Let me give you a sneaky one.
Yeah.
And you know why I'm saying this. What about
Clinton Portis?
Fred Taylor. No, I won't.
No, I take Emmitt over Fred Taylor.
You like Emmitt
I
over?
take Emmitt over Fragile Fred. Yeah, I take him over Fragile Fred.
What about Marshall Faulk?
We've had this discussion a lot. As a complete back, I would take Marshall Faulk.
Okay.
As a complete back, I would take Marshall Faulk. Yeah, because he caught so many passes out of the backfield and did so many unique things for those teams he played for.
What about Derrick Henry?
Your pause. I think we may need to do that little sit down where we revisit the top 10 again.
That would be a tough one because of the second half of Henry's career and the way he's kind of finished his career. And I don't mean in a bad way, in a good way. I probably 5 years ago I would have said Emmitt easy. But the way that he's been with the Ravens, that's close.
His numbers are incredible over time. But let me ask you something about Henry. How close is he to being in the empty stats category?
I would say that probably a lot of it when he was with the Titans. There was some empty stats in that. But man, with how many big plays over the last 3 years has he made when his starting quarterback wasn't playing? Where he had to be the guy to make the big play and have a big run, especially in night games, right? How many times, think back how many night games where that guy had a giant run to flip a game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fumbles he's had the last 2 seasons out of nowhere, which he never was a fumble during his career, that's tough.
When you say never, it's never. Like the fourth quarter fumbling stat, like that was brand spanking new in his career.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, and it was great defensive play. We're talking about people get in the Hall of Fame. Peanut Tillman's got to go in the Hall of Fame only because he created something that wasn't there before, and he's damaged other people's careers. Right? I mean, a lot of those fumbles were punches that wouldn't have existed without Peanut Tillman doing it.
Let me give you one that Foreman loves. What about Eddie George?
Yeah, Eduardo Jorge won me a title 1 year in fantasy football, but not a fan.
Listen, I saw that.
He ran the ball like Frankenstein walked. It's not a fan.
Combines, and I was like, yeah, I didn't know running backs are supposed to look like that.
Yeah, he was not built like a running back. He was, like I said, he was built more like he was in the lab than he was an actual human being that was born from a woman. Yeah, all right. Yeah, he was.
Rapid fire here while I got you, and I appreciate your ability to drive and focus and recall. It's very impressive. Sip would have had. Give me. Speaking of the Peanut Tillman punch, all in or all out on Rodriguez as a linebacker?
I'm all in. I think sometimes, 2 guys I'm going to talk about that I think he reminds me a little of that kind of got doubted going in the league. Dat Nguyen, who got doubted coming in the league, and the little dude out of Texas Tech, not Morris. What's his name? Out of Texas Tech.
Zach Thomas?
Zach Thomas, thank you. 2 guys that they were like, well, he's not big enough, or he's not this, he's not that. And they just made tons of plays. And I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to go someplace and be third in the league in tackles.
Dude, I think Zach Thomas had about 1,000 tackles on us on a Thursday night. And
I believe it. I believe it. And you know what? We saw it in college, but we doubted it because he was 5'11" or 5'10 and a half or whatever. You saw it, but they didn't believe it coming in, and he proved them, and he's a Hall of Famer.
Safest offensive player in the draft.
Oh, we were talking about this. I think Spencer Fanu is. I shook Spencer Fanu's hand a few times. Those are mitts, man. They are literally first baseman gloves is what he has on. Those things, and when he gets a hold of you, and I don't care if it's guard, center, If somebody decides him at right tackle, I don't know. But wherever he plays, that guy plays for 12 years and is incredibly solid. He's going to be a really good player. I trust him.
Safest defensive player. You may think scheme here. I don't know. Is there a scheme-proof guy? Let me ask it that way.
I think Mansour at LSU can play either in the man scheme or he could play in his own scheme. So he's pretty safe.
He's incredible on tape.
Yeah, he's really safe. God, there's not, because every one of them I can have doubts about where they're playing and maybe they don't come up. Like I think Arvell Reese is going to be a stud. I know we had this text conversation yesterday. I just think his natural ability, I think he's going to be better in the pros than he was in college. I think he was limited a little bit when they had him doing certain things. I think when you just let him play like Dallas does with Michael Parsons, I think he's going to be a stud.
Or scheme proof though.
I don't know if he's not going to play in a 4-3. He's not going to be an inside linebacker like he played a lot in college, but he's going to be an outside linebacker. And I think that's where he fits and he's going to be better. I don't know if it's scheme proof, but as an athlete, wherever that guy on the field, I think he's going to make huge plays.
I love these because we've had some famous, we've never forgotten. We've both been right. We've both been wrong ones, right? Timmons, like there's been some of these. Who's the best safety in the draft? Come on, man. I know you're not a huge Caleb Downs fan, but I told you yesterday he started as a freshman for Nick Saban, who runs the secondary, led the team in tackles. That kid is a Hall of Famer. Okay.
Put on the board. He's a Hall of Famer.
I like that. I haven't had that strong of an opinion about somebody except for Patrick Willis. That's the last. Well, I was like, I told my buddy, "Oh, congrats on drafting a Hall of Famer."
Yeah, you remember the Senior Bowl, and it was him and Singletary was running him through the drills, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this guy is going to be incredible."
I like the fact. So the one thing I do like about Downs is he's actually telling these teams that he's visiting about their schemes.
Oh, I believe it. He's smart. Obviously, he's graduated in 3 years. Say what you want about that, but he's a smart kid. So yeah, I don't have a doubt about that.
All right, couple more. Biggest reach at wide receiver.
Every one of these guys who are in that top 6, and I said this before, none of them are number ones. So all of them could be dangerous.
Number one. You don't need a
number one. I'm just saying, we went through a whole bunch of years where we had a bunch of number ones. You had 4 or 5 years in a row where you had all these number ones, right? And now you don't. And for me, it's the Arizona State kid because of injuries. You know, when you have those kind of injuries and that kind of body, that's the one I'm going to doubt the most just because of that. I think the other guys have places they can fit, but I don't know. What
about Boston?
Boston is limited because of his twitchiness, but at the same time, if a system understands who he is, again, he's a number 2 or 3 guy. He's not a number 1. So he can find a place as a number 2 or 3 guy. He could certainly be a bust because of his size and lack twitchiness, but I still think he could be a 2 or 3 on a team and be okay.
So that's interesting because with so many condensed sets now and motion, a number 1 is overrated. I was given the examples of like who's the guy that I used in Atlanta who has 95 catches and you're like
London.
Like you would never call him a 1, right?
Drake London's a 1. So one is defined by, I know what you're talking about across. 1 is the one who gets the most targets. So he's a number 1 target guy. That's your number 1 in your system based off of what I'm talking about. Not saying that in terms of where he's lined up on the field.
Those guys can be anywhere, right? Because there's no real similarities between like London.
Amon is a 1. He's a 1, but he's out of slot. Yeah, he's the 1.
Or a true boundary guy like Chase. Like or Nakua's different. They all look different.
Yeah, but they're all 130 target guys. And 150 target guys, and that's what I'm talking about being their 1. I don't think that the guys who are in this draft are that kind of guy. I don't think they are going to be a guy who's going to lead a team in targets.
All right, last one. The guy that you'd be most willing to take a chance on because of what you could potentially get.
It's going back to Arizona State. It's the right tackle out of Arizona State, whose name.
man.
4 years of competitive football, right? And every year got better, and then goes to All-Star game, and I don't remember which All-Star game I was watching. I watched both of them in the practices, and was absolutely dominant. And I'm like, this kid's still learning, and he's just going to get better and better. So I probably would take a chance on him, and I probably would take a chance on him higher than I've seen him projected. I've seen him projected in the 20s. If the first 2 tackles are gone, then I probably would take him because of just the potential he has.
Michael, can I make the argument that kind of going back to the empty stats thing a little bit here, that outside of quarterback, there's not I don't think there's empty stats in football.
So would you say the same thing for defense? Because Urlacher had a whole lot of empty stats.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
So here's
one for tackles. Could you say that's an empty stat?
At no point did I ever think Urlacher was the best linebacker on his own team.
So part of the reason I say that, and this is, I define empty stats as does not directly impact winning.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah, sure. Right.
So and I also sort of differentiate.
Like who? Myles Garrett?
Well, I differentiate between garbage time stats and empty stats. Empty stats.
I mean, Myles Garrett's pretty good, and they don't win a thing.
Right. So that's what I mean. Because it takes outside a quarterback who has an outsized importance in the game, outside that one spot, I can't really blame Myles Garrett for the Browns not winning more.
If I'm the Browns, I get a couple of first rounders for Myles Garrett, and I totally reboot.
You know what
thing.
I mean?
I get what you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying and your point. I just think we can, nitpick guys who put up big numbers outside of the quarterback position because they were on bad teams and they were in trailing positions. So they had an opportunity to catch a bunch of balls and put up big numbers, but it wasn't because they were so much better. It's just that they had the opportunity because you're trailing by 3 touchdowns and you got to throw the ball every time. I think that you point that out. That's the only thing I could think of. But defensively, I think there's a lot of empty stats in defense, the way they count tackles.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to tackle the ball carrier, right?
But you may not be the guy tackling the ball carrier. You could be Urlacher, who's jumping on the pile and getting an assist.
Well, I mean, that's how I feel about assists in the NBA too, where it's hey, he took 4 dribbles and 2 steps, but hey, that's a dime for Russell Westbrook. Cool.
Yeah. And I'm the opposite way because I think the hockey assist is a great concept, and I think the hockey assist should be included in the NBA, even though I don't watch it.
It matters more in hockey, though.
I agree with that. But I also think you'd have to have a super strict definition of what a hockey assist is in the NBA. Because
you would, but they got enough AI stuff now. The AI could tell them, right?
No, I know, but I mean, they don't even have a good enough definition of what a regular assist is in the NBA.
That's true.
When I think empty stats, though, I think of basketball.
I promise this is the last one because we're at 8:01 and BC is going to be like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What amount of wins based on the perception of this offseason for Nebraska, which has been fairly, it's either wait and see or negative. It hasn't been positive, right?
Right.
Let's say this now so we don't revisit history. How many wins do you think gets him a parade in the offseason looking forward to 2027?
I've said this many times. It's not wins. It's who you beat. They have to beat a team they're not expected to beat. If he does that and they go 7-5, he'll get more credit than if they go 8-4 and they lose to the 4 best teams and they lose badly to them. He's got to win a game to win the people back over. That's a team they shouldn't beat. So they play Oregon, obviously. Are they going to beat Oregon? I don't think so. But if they could beat a team like Oregon, hell, even if they beat Iowa at the end of the season, that will give him, I'm not saying parade, but it's going to make people feel a whole lot better about Nebraska football than if they lose those games.
At home? Yeah,
Of course, Ohio State. Yeah, or even play Ohio State close and losing a close game. That was Scott Frost's greatest win, right? The close loss to Ohio State.
All in or all out on Michigan State's growth?
I don't know about Michigan State. I really don't. They seem like when you broke up the divisions, that where they are right now, they're in a bad spot. They're just in a bad. It doesn't feel like they are going to be a team that can do the 9-win thing anymore. But I don't know. That's the way I feel about them right now.
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
It's the first key off season or off. They're on the road and they're in Omaha today. So
yeah. All right, I gotta go inside. See you guys.
Bye.
That is Michael Severe, host of Big Red Wrap Up. Yeah, I'm not a Michigan State guy.
Yeah.
Not buying it.
Fascinating.
Forget a lot of what happened before the
that coaching staff is pretty confident too.
That's fine. I mean, I like some of the hires, but not the head coaching one.
It's a key game.
That's
it's a
DB.
Real key game.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We will be back with Brian Christopherson coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Live.
Yeah, one of the biggest surprises to me coming to Nebraska has been the fans on the road. And whether it's in the fall or the spring, it's pretty amazing to see the support that we have all over the country. And, coming to a small town-ish, I wouldn't really call Sioux Falls a small town, but, coming where everybody's appreciative that we're here, they're laying out the red carpet. I think it puts into perspective just, where our program's at, and that we don't want to take that for granted, and we want to continue to sports bring people joy, so we want to continue to do that as much as we can around the country.
Yeah, I think we just have a bunch of fighters. Everybody on the court at all times wants to win, and go back to what you asked her, how do we win? We just want to win all the time. So next point mentality, we don't care what happened next. We're really trying to work on. I mean, we don't care about what happened in the past. We're just trying to move on to the next ball, which helps us win. So yeah, I don't know. I just think we have a lot of grit, which is really cool, and I love to play with, and a lot of feisty girls. So it's hard to lose when you got a lot of feisty people out there.
It's super heartwarming. I mean, the warm welcome that I get at the beginning is awesome. I'm glad that people, respect me and still do that. That's awesome. I can't ask for anything better. The fans here are one of a kind. So it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. I see people calling my name in the crowd, and I turn, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember you. So that's so awesome to,
Midpoint?
Yeah. No, during warm-ups.
That's cool.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Rigo lifts this ball to right. It sends Teeters back to the warning track at the wall. He runs out of room. There's the bottom of the order thump Nebraska was looking for. Drew Rigo.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Mail Medical. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports HQ. We are joined now by Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, what's going on, buddy? How we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Hanging in there. How did you get to baseball last night?
No. I watched the Minnesota Twins. I was switching between both baseball games. That was my first time tuning into the Twins. I've caught the fever, I guess.
Well, you picked a good game, I guess.
Yeah, sorry.
No, don't apologize. His team can't hit, and guys on his team lobbed the bird, and they have to apologize. I'm not even a fan of that. Like,
of lobbing people the bird or apologizing.
BC, he's got such a. There's a difference between moral and ethics, right? Moral is personal, and ethical is
community.
Is public.
Yeah.
So I don't know what compass word this is, BC, but are you one of those guys that judges athletes how they respond to fans?
No. I like a little give. I like a little give and take.
Okay. I felt like he was getting an exceptionally hard time.
I also think flipping people off is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but you cuss every 5 seconds.
That's not true. I go 3 hours every morning and barely do.
That is certainly not true.
I go on.
You cuss at least once a show, at least. And when we get off, he cusses 85 times to catch up.
When's the last time you flipped someone the bird on the road, Robbie?
Oh, I never do it on the road. I give him a thumbs up.
Never.
I do.
Oh, you go the other way, like a smile. You just smile at him. Yeah,
I kind of smirk and I just go, "Good job, bud."
He's team condescending.
Yes. That's
Have you ever pulled up right next to someone that sped by you unnecessarily and you just clap for him like you did this? Look at him and clap. I've done that a couple times.
I've never done the golf clap, but I have looked somebody dead in the eye and just been like, "Way to go! You proud of yourself?"
I just think it's weird how if a player, I watched 18 TikToks of LeBron telling a fan to sit down. So what? I'm certainly not an LBJ apologist, but if somebody doesn't like something that somebody said to him, short of pulling a DK Metcalf, there isn't give and take, or because you make certain amount of money. At some point, do you just become desensitized and you can't be having a bad day? Or I don't know, man. We make a big deal about nothing.
I don't get a problem with it. He did it, and our boys were up 6-0, I think, when he did it already, or 5-0. So I was like, whatever, get it off your chest, buddy. I mean, you've run into a juggernaut in the 2026 Minnesota Twins. That's going to make you feel a certain sort of way. So,
and
yeah, I didn't mind it.
Know his story. He's had some serious mental health issue struggles.
I just read about that last night. Yeah, I didn't know about that, actually. I missed that, and so I'll further extend the grace on that. But didn't mind it. Maybe it was because the score was what it was, so I didn't care.
When Ravi wanted him to come up so fast, the first thing I could think of was, well, I sure hope he can handle the pressure.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to bring him along slowly last year.
Yeah, it wasn't him as much as I wanted some of the younger guys to get their burn. But I understood because it was in the the Red Sox Netflix deal that he kind of revealed a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah.
And hey, I'll give him credit for saying it out loud, right? Because that opposing fans aren't always kind with that information. The other part of it is it does kind of open you up to there's a certain type of people that will give you a little more grace if they know that. So I'm not saying he did it in
I just think playing at a high level like that, you have to be able to go to some dark places in your head. I think all athletes that perform on that stage have potential to melt down.
Oh, interesting. I don't know.
BC, agree, disagree?
You might be right. You would know better than I.
Well, I'm crazy and I have to fight it every day. So that's why.
So I think there's two types.
Okay.
I don't know if I can say this on the air. I think you have
your lines of demarcation are fascinating.
Says you, the Richards over here and whatever. I think there's two types of highly, highly successful people. I think there are ones that are borderline psychos. right? Those are your Jordans, your Kobe's, like the ones that, like, if things went a little differently in your life, you might be a
You ever heard
serial.
Andres Galarraga talk about Barry Bonds?
Yeah, like I think guys are like, if things went a little differently, like you're probably in prison or should be, right? Like I like if that is a category, which it sounds like that's the category you're putting yourself in. I'm not. That's the category you're putting yourself in. And then I think you have the category of, I'm gonna loosely call it like neurodivergent thinkers, where they like can simply be obsessed with a task, and it like that is like that just they can live their life that way.
One thing I think we're discounting, fellas, though, since we're
especially in baseball,
psychology 101, is the ability to hit the kill switch, like that
to turn it off.
Yes.
So that's
that's incredibly difficult.
So with the first type of person, that is incredibly important. Otherwise, you do have meltdowns. With the second type of person, I think a lot of them, and there's specific sports like baseball, because you're spending a lot of time alone, whether it's batting cages, things like that, tennis, golf, like a lot of sports where it's like hyper repetitive things.
Yeah, and those are those sports where they're most prone to get the yips too.
Yes, I think those, you get a lot of like neurodivergent thinkers in that, where like the routine is the thing that matters to them, and they may not be like psychotic competitors, but their ability to be so consistent every single day is the thing that makes them great.
Here's one for you, Damon. Who's the most like mild-mannered guy you played for that could just turn a switch? He's like, I want to crush people on the like, you know, like I love football because of the violence almost. Like I get that quote sometimes from guys like that this is why I love to play the game, but off the field, they're like the most gentle dude you've ever met. Like those guys always intrigue me the most, like how they're able to pull that 180. Is there a guy that was like that?
I'll give you 3. Number 1 has to be Phil Ellis.
Okay.
Phil Ellis is good. If I was stuck tonight, Phil Ellis would drive to come pick me up. He'd give me a hug. But on the field, like I truly wondered about his sanity. You know, he broke his thumb. He had the crack in his wrist. Like he didn't want to play with a real cast. He wanted to like Phil Ellis was but a super guy.
Gives me that vibe.
Toby Wright.
Well, I don't remember.
Okay.
Toby Wright is, hey, even today, right? You'll see him at the complex after a game, and you know he's asking about the kids. Oh, I really like Caleb and DB. How you do? You know, tremendous, nice guy, certifiable, like in a dark alley, and probably I think Ed Stewart.
Oh, that's a good one.
Super higher level thinker.
Really bright guy.
Extremely bright. Front office jobs, suit and tie.
Full on psycho.
That's South Side Chicago, Mount Carmel before it was $13,000 a year.
I got you.
Like, I thought Stu was crazy.
I don't know his personality that much, but a guy that seems that way publicly is Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah, well, his teammates will tell you the same.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, you hear stories like Tom Brady's got Sue stories. Like,
he rolls on the floor with like his kids and lets his wife mess with him and all these TikToks and
so
stuff.
like you wouldn't expect that from, but like legitimately got voted the dirtiest player in the NFL. Like chose violence on every single occasion. So like that to me, without knowing a guy, seems like a huge disparity between on the field and off the field.
Yeah, I tell you.
The night Sue dominated and threw Colt McCoy around like a rag doll after the game, this is like 10 to 15 minutes after the game, he's just like sitting in a golf cart being driven to the post game, and he was doing interviews as calm as could be. Had just been like the biggest wrecking force I've ever seen in a college game. And it was just like, yeah, that he's a perfect example, because that guy could have got into a discussion about like a 400 level philosophy course at like 10 minutes after the game. It seemed like he was very much built that way.
You know who is incredibly bright, and this goes without saying given what he did. And I thought he was one of the nicest people ever. He was kind of the team barber. took me shopping and like helped me set up my electronics.
I know you're talking about.
Let me like sit in his truck and explain like what he meant when he would say dualies, and I was like, "What's a dually?"
Yeah,
was Ray Caruth. Super nice to me, and like to the team, but I did not see that guy capable of.
Obviously, had a different experience with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So
we went into a dark place there.
Yeah, let's take it to a little bit.
Well, that was your question. Phil Ellis was an easy one for me.
All right, you gave good answers.
I'll take it to a little bit lighter place here. We were talking about empty stats earlier, and my question for you, BC, is I made the argument that I don't really think empty stats exist in football. I think it takes too many people to, and let me define empty stats for you. I define empty stats as players that accumulate stats that do not impact winning at a high level. That's just my only definition. And I differentiate that from garbage time stats because a lot of times you can't control what the score is. But I would make the argument that because of how many people it takes for things to go right in football, that empty stats aren't really a thing. Fair or foul?
What about a leading tackler on a bad defense?
I mean, what's he supposed to do? Not tackle him?
I mean, how valuable is it?
But that's what I mean. Yeah. But you've got, like, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, right? You brought up Brian Urlacher. Gets a lot of credit for all the tackles and stuff, but never was even you'd think the best linebacker on his own team. Fair?
Fair.
So, but when you're looking at those Bears teams, right? Like, would he have been any less productive if the things around him were better? I don't know. Right? Like, if he's got a great defensive line,
football would be hard.
Football's really hard when it comes to the empty stats thing, whereas basketball, I think, is very easy.
Robbie. I think your take on football, like over a long sample size, if we're talking about like judging a guy for like a Hall of Fame status or something like that, I agree with you for them. I would say that's fair. I do think game to game, there are like sometimes there will be something in the Husker record books, for instance, and this is maybe where you're talking about like garbage time stats or something, where a guy will have like 195 receiving yards or something, and I'll remember the game. I'll be like, not all 195s are created equally. And the perfect example, I can give it off the top of my head, was when Nebraska was getting lambasted in 2017 out in Happy Valley by the Saquon Barkley Penn State team. It was the Diaco defense. And Tanner Lee and I think it was Pearson L or whomever started carving them up in the fourth quarter. And it ended up being like 56-44. If you just saw the score crawl across the screen, Brunson, I always joke about that's like a Hall of Fame score crawl, that game was 56-44. That was actually like 56-10. But there's sometimes like an individual game where I feel like a guy sort of maybe cheated the system, so to speak. Not that I'm mad at him about it, because you just keep playing. But I think over the course of like a full 5 years or whatever, 10-year career, like usually it evens out. That's how I feel about it.
I think it's significantly easier on offense than defense, because even Severe's example, he talked about quarterback play.
Like, he talked a lot about garbage time stats, which again is
because I'll give you a couple for Nebraska where I think if you're recruiting, they're going to matter, right? If you're talking to Trey Taylor, it's like, hey, look, this is very, very important. But things that probably fly under the radar in the course of the season, it's like Nebraska set a season record in team completion percentage. They set a historical record for individual completion percentage, right? But you're like, okay, I didn't really love our offense for X amount of time, or I did like it, or however you feel about the offense. Those two things are factual, but how important are they? They're super important if you're going to try to go get a guy.
Sure.
And you're like, hey, this is what you can do for this. This is what we can do for you. Help us. Versus we're seeing it on the outside, and it's like, I don't know.
How many games would Nebraska have won if they weren't that efficient?
No, there's always I get it. Listen,
you know what I mean? Like,
Like, I look at Geno Smith, right?
Sure.
Geno Smith had a year in which he got paid 2 years ago, and I was like, well, what'd that get him?
Yeah, fair.
He's 38-19. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, cool.
But then I look at a guy like Sam Darnold, where with Minnesota, you could argue like maybe there were some empty stats there, like they won a lot of regular season games, but didn't get them anywhere.
Or how about the guy you kill me over that I love? Or I don't love him. I said I would take him tomorrow. Quarterback in the NFL. I defend him. I put him in the top, no worse than 11 every year.
Mayfield.
No.
Oh,
that's easy. He's 8, 9. This one you're going to fight me over every year.
The ones that I'm thinking that you honk for are Mayfield and Darnold.
Dak Prescott.
Oh, I don't fight John Prescott. I he's a really good quarterback. But that's a great example. Like, I don't think his stats are empty just because the Cowboys are bad at other things, right? There's I think a lot of this for me comes down to the fact that you only get to impact half the game in football ever.
See, first of all,
get that there's
it's his session.
I
do you believe that supposition, BC?
No. I think all phases feed to each other. So I think you have more of an impact in that. I know what Robbie's making the point, but
you can get the ball back maybe, or turning it over,
sure,
or sudden change.
You can.
So
yeah,
zero.
You can flip a game on its head.
You have less impact. You have a dramatically less amount of impact, and say on what happens in 50% of the game.
I don't know. I'm super jaded, BC, because I think football is the ultimate team sport.
I agree. That's what I mean. Like, no individual player can have, and like Victor Wembanyama, especially if he figures out his.
Then it's not the player's fault for having empty stats.
That's why I said empty stats don't exist in football. That's why I said that. It's not their fault. There's too many other factors that impact winning in football for it to be one guy's fault to be like, empty stats. That's why I said that about football. Whereas like Victor Wembanyama, like he literally can change the entire landscape of a whole basketball game all by himself.
Unless, BC, what do you think about turning the ball over?
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate stat where you're talking about feeding the other side of the ball. I mean,
but then we're kind of getting away from the empty stats part of it, right?
Well, you're talking about the
impact that part of the game.
Yeah.
But almost only to the negative. When you're really, really if you're really bad at something all the time or a lot of the time, like turnovers, can't complete the passes, things like that, like, yes, you're going to have a negative impact on the game. But if I'm talking about winning and empty stats, prolific stats impacting winning, I do think there is a limit on how much that can be. If you're like losing this thing at Texas Tech, like, sorry, BC, go ahead.
No. I mostly agree with you, Ravi. I think that the only time I differentiate sort of in the stats within is like, because I think the full sample size of a season, it's going to prove its value. Like a guy can't really cheat the stats usually. I do always categorize once you get to conference play between that and non-con and some of the stuff you get at. But your general point, I agree with in football, and I like I've said, like there's maybe a game or so where a guy can get away with one where everybody's like, oh man, he had a friendlier line than that game felt. You know, that can happen, I think, in any sport. But over the course of even 6 to 8 games, I always think it comes to the mean on a player sort of in any season. So that's I would agree with your base point there.
BC, let me talk about like the kind of the totality of what's happening across Nebraska sports landscape, whether it's softball or track and field or the finish in wrestling, baseball, basketball, what we want to see in football. If you're at Nebraska, given what you know the landscape of their programs are, and maybe it's sports specific for you, would you want your emphasis to be in retention or acquisition?
Retention. I start with the people smarter than me on a question like that, and then think about it. And you think about like what Troy Dannon has said, and any coach, Fred Hoiberg said it, 8-9 days ago. Retention's the key. Brad Underwood said it right after the Final Four loss for Illinois. He was talking about that category more than who they were going to get. Now, obviously, they have to pair together. In this day and age, you've got a small percentage of guys for hoops you can bring in. You got to kind of nail it on a couple of them. But I think it's so critical. Let's just use like Husker men's basketball as the example that's right in front of us right now. And this is what Fred said last week. You've got guys who have set a certain standard there. And I'm not just talking about getting the Sweet 16 and wins and losses, but the way you go about things. Like if you hear Sam Hoiberg do an interview, it's like they established a certain culture, like this is how we play around here, and that's the expectation. And so in this day and age where some teams are flipping almost their entire roster, I still think it's pivotal that you have at least a 3 to 4 core guys who sort of set the template when they get together in June. Like this is the way we rock. And so I think it's a huge, it's the biggest deal. They obviously the other part is going to matter significantly too. And you've got to be great evaluators with that. Sometimes you've got to do more with less as you pick your guys, because some people are going to have more money than you. But my answer is definitely retention of that question.
Yeah, and I get it. And I was just talking to one of the guys in the stream where it's why can't you have both? And that's pretty myopic, right? Obviously, you'd want to have both, but the reality of it is unless you're at a certain level of play in terms of being, I'm not even going to say elite, being more in the driver, being more proactive than reactive, you have to start with typically one or the other, right? Obviously, you want both, but I think it kind of depends on what you want to be, right? Coach Hoiberg, you hear about development. I mean, incessantly development. If that's the case, I clearly want to be more in the retention business. If Nebraska is truly going to be a developmental football program, you truly want to be more in the retention business, especially if you feel like your evals are worth the darn, right? So I think, go ahead.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the anxiousness combined with excitement of the hoops portal season over this 2 weeks, it makes all the sense. It's like on steroids because, you know, you're talking about rosters with 15 guys total. And actually, in this case, you're talking about guys that you want to be in your core 10 or 11 first guys on the team. And you got to get 4 or 5 of them. And so, I mean, that's almost half the group that you want to fight for your rotation. And so I understand where right now people are like, they're refreshing their computers all the time. Like there's this feeling like you got to get this guy or what's their next plan. I get all that. But I think the fact, back to the retention thing, that you have a Price Sanford, that you have Frager and these guys that are coming back also can help you. It comes down to money so much of the time. That's just the way of the world. But at least if it's a fair fight, that I think the fact that you do have guys that want to come back and play for you, that also signals something to the guys who are making their decisions. You hope it does, at least.
BC, when you're having that kind of debate with yourself, and it didn't seem like it was too much. It seemed like player retention was the obvious one in your mind there. Like, does the ability of the coaching staff to recruit locally factor into that at all for you?
Might be sports specific.
Yeah. No, it's a good question, Ravi. Yeah. It is a little sport specific, maybe. I don't know. Like, not as much with basketball, honestly. Like, I feel like, especially Hoiberg's staff has done a good job putting the lines out and having a good read on who's where in their careers locally. And there's been interest when there needs to be interest in certain guys. And for various reasons, sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, as far as like the financials or other opportunities presented for that guy, maybe both financially and playing time, or what he sees the road to getting on the floor. So I think they've actually done a good job. That's not something I've thought as much about, though, especially in this current hoops cycle. I'm just sort of like locked in on these 4 to 6 names that are sort of out there, and they could be from any area code or whatever. And it's just like, how do they fit within this system? That's sort of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I just look at baseball and I think like Sanderson or Dylan Carey or, I mean, it was crucial that these guys came back. You know what I mean? Versus going out and maybe not. Listen, they've had some nice acquisitions, and some have panned out, some haven't. I mean, we wouldn't say that Frost panned out last year, right?
Mm.
But this year, you look at what's happening in the portal, and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, so but it had to start somewhere, kind of with the sport.
And I do think even as volatile as everything can seem now, and guys coming and going, it's still a big sense of stability when you have those guys return. And we've said, that there's things that you can definitely question about football, how it's going to go and all this stuff. The one thing you'd have to say is in this era, they've done a significant job compared to others with retention. Like, they've got so many guys that are third, fourth year guys that have stuck around the program. I wrote about a guy last night, mentioned he kept coming up in the spring, Sua Lafotu.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the type of guy, you don't see that in college sports a whole lot, where a guy who's only played 96 snaps, he's actually entering his fourth year of college football, and he's still here, and you could find 15, 20 guys sort of like him that are vying for at least a spot in the rotation at their position group. Who maybe
when it's one of his best friends winds up at Michigan and people think he's never going to play, right? So it's it's not that nobody wants you or the grass. It's interesting, and that position group may benefit the most, BC, from a fresh perspective, right? Whether it's Corey Brown or Manning or Dave Tollefson, just new insight and a fresh set of eyes could really benefit that group tremendously.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've said this. I don't know what they're going to be. I'm not going to beat the drum one way or the other for them. I do think they're going to be better coached and in a better position to succeed this year, and we'll see where that takes them. And there's probably guys in that room who feel the same way. But yeah, Lafotu is a good example when you talk about, there's certain guys that are in that football. And I know that the other side of that argument, some people would say, well, maybe some of these guys, there would be some who would say some people should have left, or maybe sometimes it's not like you want to retain everybody. I can listen to that argument, but I do think the biggest story, and I'm working my way to Husker football, I guess, but is as much as we talk about Jasir Whittingtons and Anthony Jones and Owen Chambliss, those guys are going to be really important. They've got to be really good acquisitions, and they've got to nail it. It's going to be as much for this program about those players, they're year 3 or 4 now. They've been developing. They've obviously they believe in something in that process that's going on over there. They wouldn't still be here. And are they going to take that next step? And I'm not talking about whether that means you're starting or not, but are you taking that next step to be in the rotation, to be part of a 7-8 man crew on the D line where you can rotate in and you can give quality snaps. All that stuff is, I think, going to be what tilts us one way or another for this team this year.
BC, would you think, and I'm going to ask you to speak for other people here, so I understand that's a dangerous proposition, but would you think, you're born and raised here, like we were, would you think most of the state would give the same answer, or they'd prefer a player retention, which I think de facto means a developmental model for football?
That's a good question. That's always hard to speak for what the state poll would come out. I think they would say yes.
Shied from calling themselves a developmental program.
Yeah. I think the majority, if they had to pick one or the other, and again, you got to do well both, but I think they would vote retention on that question. But I don't know what the number would be. It's hard to say, because like I said, there's a segment that would say, I don't know if they've got enough of the guys over there. Maybe there needed to be a little more turnover. I sometimes hear that from people, but I think. To your question, that would be my guess. Who would win the poll is retention, but I don't know for sure.
So yeah, I'm assuming not necessarily with this staff in particular, but let's say we have let's say everybody trusts the talent at eval and things like that. I think most people would pick player retention. So here's my follow-up question is, do you think that same amount of people have the patience required in today's college football to actually let that play out?
It's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there'd be some people probably would, maybe talk out of both sides of their mouth on that one. But however you go about it, you still got to get the result. So I understand where they're coming from. And I get where people right now are just sort of like tapping their foot a little bit. Like, you can have actually the thought, like, I like sort of the overall undertaking that this staff has made and Rule has made, but I'm also like, all right, let's see it now. And you had on Severe just before me, and I always like listening to Michael. And he was right when you asked the question to me, was right about like a win total. And that I don't think it's necessarily the win total. I do think it's that they have to win a game or two, and it's going to help this whole any of these conversations we're having in April, May, June to keep the clock moving. They're going to have to get that sort of win against somebody you don't expect. And I think it can really raise things around here, and it can raise moods and all that stuff. So I'm kind of getting away from your question. I don't know. It's hard to get in people's heads. Like if they say, yeah, retention's most important to me, and what their result total needs to be in the next year or two. I don't know what different people would say on each street corner, but that's what makes these off seasons so interesting, I guess, is because there are such varied takes on everything.
So one of the things that I think, you brought up the Severe part of this, and I think that's because DB and I had this conversation a little bit off air, was he said, hey, you could win 7 and beat Iowa, and people would be better with that than winning 8. And I think the problem with that is,
I don't know about that.
And I don't know if people agree with that, but let's say that's a place that people are okay saying that. The problem then becomes the teams you would have had to have lost to only have 7 wins. If you get one of those 4 games that everybody's pointing to, that becomes dicey in a hurry as well. And so I'm curious where you land on, like, yes, winning one of those games is really important in terms of perception of the program, but there still has to be a number associated, including that win, right?
No, I get you. Yeah. And if you're talking under with the idea that they won one of those, or would we say there's like 4 games like that? There's 3 games against teams that were in the playoff last year.
Yeah, and then there's Iowa, which we have an outside value for, right?
Yeah. So if they won one of those, I get what you're saying. If you still ended up 7-5, that means you maybe lost to like Maryland or somebody. And so there's that's where you could go round and round on it. So it would be huge to get to like 8 somehow. But we all know it's going to be tough, but I have a lot of curiosities about this team. I'm not a person who doesn't think they can't surprise people, or I know the over under, the first one that came out was like 5.5. I think it's there's interesting pieces with the new quarterback and what Jeep Wade's doing with the offensive line, where I have an open mind about it. I've said that all off season. But your point's well taken. Like you can win a big game against somebody, but if you drop one to a couple in early October or whatever, Michigan State, Maryland, it's not feeling too hot then. These discussions are always tough because the mood, this, it switches like so dramatically from week to week. Like, I mean, you could, one week it's like it's the end of the world when there's a loss to somebody, and then you can come back and they win a game and it just changes everything. And that's why the Iowa game has dinged this program so significantly, because it's always the last morsel on the plate, right? Like going in, and for the most part, it's been a loss, and that's bit this team more than anything. And it's also elevated Iowa to a spot that in some seasons where it kind of helped advertise their season in a better way than it maybe would have been.
That's our guy, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. Appreciate the time as always, BC. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, B.
That is Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. I think the point in the schedule that we play Iowa, I think, is actually a really interesting discussion point, because ending with Iowa with the results that Nebraska's had, I think does make it dramatically worse.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it. And I said, can't remember who we were talking to. It was national or it was Sam. Right? Everybody wants to talk about November. And I get it because of how November typically has ended the last 10 years, right? Since 16, and 16 wasn't great.
Yeah, that won 1 and 3 right down the stretch.
And so, but at this stage, I still can't get past, Champaign and East Lansing in 2026.
100%.
Right? So, I mean, there's probably something to your thought process.
Yeah, I think that and it's sort of a thing that Severe brought up when we talked to him. He goes, it's kind of, and I know we think of nostalgia as being something further back, but his definition was well put of it's not what happened, it's how we feel about what happened.
Yeah.
That's the problem with November, right? If you flip some of those schedules around, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it does, but you don't change any of the records and just change the order in which it happens, I do feel like we think differently about it. Which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Like if you're trying to take a 30,000 foot view of things, like yes, you want to finish seasons better. Obviously.
I just think that's vastly, I don't know how. I don't think it's very practical because you're talking about very different prisms.
Sure.
A fan's perspective versus, being inside the program and measuring growth.
Is it too much?
You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's not a ton of overlap there.
Is it
unless it's obvious?
Is it too much for me to ask that fans be able to, and I include myself in that, be able to view things through two different prisms depending on what we're talking about? Like I understand having emotions.
We have the show every day.
Yes.
You tell me.
So it probably is asking too much from some people, and I think we actually get it from some of our listeners or viewers, whatever you want to call them, where I think you can react a certain way in the moment and be like, that sucks, and be mad about losses and how things went. Like nobody here was happy about like in the moment as like Penn State and Iowa and Utah are happening. Like everybody was mad about it. Like let's not pretend like we weren't, but then still be able to, after the moment has passed, view the thing as a whole instead of just how we felt about that in the moment. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask because I do see some of the people that we talk to every day with the ability to do that. Like, everybody's pissed off about how November or how the season ended, right? Nobody likes it. Rule himself has said that. Like, yeah, it's got to be better. Like, nobody likes how the season ended. You can also say, hey, these are the things that were better over the course of the season.
That's interesting, though, because I think with we always give the designation to football, but we'll see, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basketball is going to try to have a runner-up performance,
which is
in
hard.
Similar fashion, right? Baseball, we're talking, on the fringe of a top 16 national seed, right? So there will be expectations that come with what we're talking about.
I think there's expectations for this weekend.
100%. Yeah. With softball, right?
100%.
Two sports that we're having a ton of success with. It's Bricktown or bust, right? So you have to just kind of press pause on that.
Yeah.
Because the only one where I think the results haven't necessarily mattered externally, given what's happened nationally, is volleyball.
100%. I agree with that 100%.
So
that's why
we just got to be patient on that.
Yeah, that's why I brought them up before. The results versus how we feel about volleyball have the biggest disconnect compared to how we feel about the other sports.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just the incredible run that they've been on volleyball that we give them a little more leeway, but that isn't typically how we process things.
I mean, softball's top 5 in the country.
Yeah, I mean, Bricktown or bust should be the thing they're thinking about, right? Like you're a top 5 team in the country, you should make the Women's College World Series.
I mean, we're talking even with SC's staff coming in, and I know I've been comparing. We've done this for a month now, comparing what I think we're going to see from Oregon and SC coming in, and we already are kind of building in these predictive measures of what we need to have happen to stay relevant in the discussion. It's just fascinating, right? Because expectations are super fluid.
Yeah. And I
super
think
fluid.
That's kind of what I mean I wish we could see through two different prisms sometimes. Like I can have an expectation in the moment, but then also understand the larger grand scheme expectation as things are building, right? Like that, if I could like wave a magic wand, that might be the one thing I wish for the fan base is be able to look at things in the moment and things as a whole through different prisms. I mean, it could be a little fun.
Ain't no fun.
All right. Well, if we can just argue with people, that's cool too.
I don't argue.
All right.
Sometimes you just let people talk to themselves.
Let's take a quick break here. Coming up at 9, we're going to talk a little NBA with Sean Devaney as the play-in games got started last night. Had some interesting things going on with the Charlotte game as well.
Boy, that is an immature bunch. But how about Miami's meltdown?
Well, and how about your boy? How do you say his name? Denny Avdia.
Oh, yeah. Did he finish with 40?
41. You know what he's averaging on the season?
We know we missed.
What?
All the upsets.
Yeah.
Although I would, so Bakersfield, the Gauchos, Santa Barbara. You know that they're one spot behind Nebraska in the RPI?
Are they?
They're 28th. That's a good baseball team.
Pretty good.
But the number 2 softball team in the country lost last night, Bama, to Samford.
The new home of Ty Davis, Samford.
And we got beat by Japan.
Do you guys want a quick fun fact on the play-in?
Sure.
Kobe White is 0-4 all time versus the whoever the Miami Heat lost to.
Well, why are you on my boy? Well, like, is it his hair? Like, what do you have against?
Nah, it's just a fun fact. I saw it. He was 0-3 when he was with the Bulls, and now he's with the Heat, and he's lost again.
That was instant offense.
Kobe White's not with the Heat.
That was instant off.
Kobe White.
Who's he with?
He's on Charlotte. He won last night.
So he's 1-3 then.
Yeah, he's instant offense.
Listen, that shot that he had to tie it in regulation was bonkers.
Miami had no business losing.
No, it's
what were they up? What were they up 3 or 4 with 8 seconds?
Yeah, it's
How about them
apples?
Where's Halliburton when you need him?
Dude, have you seen Halliburton?
I don't think so.
They're calling him Halliburger.
Oh, is he fat?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
To his defense.
He can't run or anything with the Achilles.
So he made it a point to get bigger.
Yeah.
He wanted to lift.
Got shed some of that extra.
No, he has face shingles.
Oh.
And he's had it forever.
I did hear he had shingles.
And he's
probably like super inflamed.
And he eats.
Yeah.
One of the side effects from the medication is that he's always hungry.
Oh, yeah, because he's on a steroid. Shingles, they give you a steroid medication, right?
Yeah, so my man is big swole.
Well, swole's one word for it.
No, he knows it. He's like, yeah, I gotta get back. Wait, you Google.
I'm gonna look at it.
I haven't in face shingles. I coached with a guy. He coached D-line for us. This is 15 years ago. He got shingles and he hurt every day.
Oh yeah, it's a horrible
face like that has to be a miserable experience, right?
He's looking a little.
Yeah, the social media was hitting him with Halliburger. I was like, "Hey, you guys, that's tough."
I mean, it's tough with the. It's tough with.
Yep. He was. Hey, so check that out. Yep, he was just
McAfee.
on Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Yep. He was just on McAfee.
All right, let's take a quick break here. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be right back on Hurrdat Sports Live.
It's high. Yeah, I mean, it really helps with having teammates that help lift me up, especially if I'm having bad practice or throughout the last season and the seasons before that. Like having a group of girls that really lift me up when I'm doing good and helps me build my confidence and have more confidence going out there to swing hard.
It definitely is very important, and I can see how it helps because, as you said, last season I came in right at the season and I didn't have any big preparation before that. So I feel like it's really helping. Also, beach volleyball, it's like having something different to work on, but keeping the same goal, of course, keeping the same intentions in what we do. And yeah, it's been great.
A little, not too much. Honestly, I'm just trying to be what the team needs for me or like from me every single day. And so that's, checking in with our leadership council. How do they feel practices are going? Do we need to kind of go a little more intense? Do we need to pull back on some things? I'm trying to keep things as smooth as possible kind of through that transition. Our scouts and all that is still run the same way. So not necessarily yet. I really want a win for this team. Like, to me, that means more than like an individual win, and so for me, it's for the players always. So I'm excited for this away trip, another opportunity, get a crack at Orlando, get a crack at Atlanta. I think, they're both very physical teams. The parity in this league is unbelievable. And so it's going to be whoever can convert and put the ball down a little bit more. So yeah, I'll get a second maybe at the end of season, but right now I think it's just full steam ahead, whatever the team needs.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Bridges fakes the handoff. Oh, it's caught by Ware. He devoured it. Bridges. Pull up. You don't usually use a glass from that angle, but okay. From Williams. Larson loses his footing and turns it over. There's no hesitation. Boom! Ball forced to give it up. Another one. Yes! Kobe White is not human.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Next Gen Male Medical. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports HQ, but reminding you to go hang out where we used to do the show over at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Great place to watch games. Just had lunch there yesterday. Had the crispy chicken sandwich. It was very good, DB.
I like our videos now that have like the zoom ins on the food.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's legit.
They're doing a good job with that. The food's good. I mean, like, it's good food over there. I'm a fan. I know you like the wings.
I do. Well, there's lots of stuff. Yeah, there's a handful of things.
Yeah.
I probably I probably am on a 4 or 5 dish rotation.
Oh, that's more than normal for you at a place.
Yeah. Well, the shrimp cake, the shrimp,
the boom boom shrimp
is
the boom boom shrimp
definitely in the discussion.
Yeah.
Burgers in the discussion. The wings are in the discussion. The short rib quesadillas are in the discussion.
Yeah. No,
you got some things.
So if you're watching some NBA this weekend, some NHL playoffs, whether you're just watching Nebraska baseball, which they do a great job of making sure that they've got all like BTN Plus and all the different places.
Yeah,
that Nebraska baseball plays.
Series this weekend.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know.
Yeah, they need to get at least 2 of these.
Hey, how about you saw my man Caleb Clark?
I did see your man Caleb Clark.
I cheer for him. I know, well documented.
Is that new? I'm unfamiliar with your affinity with Caleb Clark.
Dude, he's had more appearances than anybody on that staff this year.
That's fine.
You're such a hater.
I'm not a hater.
Your boy Unger got work in again.
I did. I saw that. I just don't understand the fascination with Caleb Clark. I don't. I'm not trying to be mean.
I love Canada.
I don't. Well, that's well documented as well.
Jeez. Haterade is first aid for that deep down body hate.
I
Kobe, knock it off.
Do not understand the obsession with Caleb Clark.
He called him. He's just not even kind.
I mean, he does have the 14 appearances, but I'm need you like the. 13.
I think last night was 15.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
13, whatever, 14 innings he got. That's not a lot.
Zip it.
We're not doing a lot there.
Zip it, Martina.
Do you want to know what his ERA is?
No, but can I just tell? No, I know. I'm gonna guess.
Oh, let me make sure I've got it up to date. I think that page was not loading right. But go ahead. What's your guess? Because going into last night, it was not great.
Zip it. I'm gonna go 5.89.
It is, I believe, unless this might not be updated for last night, but it was 7.43.
Okay,
which is bad.
Zip it.
It's not good.
It's fine.
Is that how? Where would you just for humor me? Where would you like an ERA to be, DB, for a reliever?
For what he does?
Yeah,
in the 4s.
So it's a little higher than that.
Sit, DB. You can't defend it. I'm from Manhattan and I'm not a bum.
He's made it difficult to defend him. I think that's fair.
No.
At least he just used a 3-letter word instead of a 4.
Yes. Kobe is famous. Kobe is famous for 4-letter words.
No.
Nobody uses 4-letter words like my man Kobayashi.
He likes to capitalize them too.
I know, and I always him and Ken and Kill Jam. Kill Jam's a little more chill in the Discord.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take much to get him going though. It's a good thing for Cole.
Well, it's mostly when he gets real mad about your vacuum sealing.
I don't think I vacuum sealed it. Oh, yes, I did. I bought over-the-counter Lynx.
Like
breakfast
sausage?
Yeah. I feel like I may have an invasion this weekend. I feel it coming.
Oh, some kids coming to town?
I feel it coming. And I'm just not interested in whipping up, wasting 2 pounds of good bacon. So we're gonna circumvent this. I am going to see Verse. I'm gonna go see Megan today.
Yeah.
I have 8 empty cartons I need to return to her. And I'm gonna get 2 more dozen eggs.
It's a lot of eggs, man. A lot of eggs.
I had 4 yesterday.
By yourself?
Yeah.
You didn't get those to anybody else?
Well, there were a side.
Are you the only person?
What's your favorite version of an egg? Like your favorite form to eat an egg?
Probably gonna have to go with a good deviled egg. Is elite. Little too much effort. What?
Deviled egg?
Deviled egg.
That's weird.
The 2 best.
That's weird. You're weird.
The 2 best deviled eggs in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Firebirds, jalapeno bacon, and salted edge. Cajun shrimp on top.
That's a lot.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so I have a question here.
I'll eat just regular deviled eggs.
I typically, this might be a me problem.
Yes.
So I'd like some education here.
We don't have Sean yet, Shane? Don't do that thing where you pull a, do you want Gary Javin now?
So I don't say that. That's Austin playing that drop.
So
no,
Corn Raider,
that's
the only one I don't enjoy is poached.
So my question here is, and please feel free to educate me because I do not know. My perception of deviled eggs is that is a that's a white heavy food.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's popular in your culture as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I very much envision
somebody was always going to bring them to the cookout.
So I always envision them very much as like, hey, some ladies bring this to church potluck.
No, they're elite.
Okay.
And we've tinkered with the yolk, like horseradishy, little D's, like elite.
All right.
But I'll eat them anyway, other than probably poached. I don't like them over hard unless it's on a sandwich, and even then, I'm just eating it to get by.
I prefer on a sandwich or like on a burger because I like to put an egg on my burger.
I need yolk.
Outside, I need the yolk to run. Otherwise, why is my egg there?
Yeah.
Like I need the yolk to cover the patty. That's the point of having the egg on the burger.
And I eat my burgers
Oh.
So it doesn't matter if the yolk is running.
My God, man.
What?
That and wings. I don't know what to do. You put the rubber gloves on for those things too, or?
Wait, are you saying you don't? Wait, what were you saying?
He said that he eats a burger with a fork and knife.
I didn't say anything.
Well, you were making.
But I want to hold on, Rob. No, I want him to say it. What are you saying?
I don't know.
One more time. Look right at the camera when you say it, please.
I don't recognize what we're doing right now. I just think when you have runny yolk on a burger, a knife and fork is a fine concept.
It's listen, I understand not wanting to get your hands dirty. That's fine. I just
No, you just use the fork or the knife to like puncture the yolk.
Are you one of those people? So this is a pet peeve.
Put a fried egg on a burger. I'm there all day.
He says, "I'm with you, DB. I rock with deviled eggs." See, that's who I was expecting to like deviled eggs.
I bet you Lee has some crossover.
We'll have Sean in a few minutes, by the way.
Okay. I bet Lee has some crossover. You never know.
Anyway, what were you saying about the knife and fork with the burger?
No, I've moved on past that.
Oh, you sound like you were going to say something important.
No, but yeah.
Neutron's with you on the knife and the fork on a burger.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a cool thing.
Is that who you want in your corner?
So I was thinking about this in the hallway. You know, I'm a big nickname guy if I like you.
Yeah.
Like, Austin has 3.
Got AJ, Jimmy Neutron, and what's the other one?
Action Jackson.
Oh, yeah, I was saying Bed Hopper, but I was.
Jimmy Neutron is perhaps my favorite.
It's the one that stuck the most.
Do I eat pizza with a knife and a?
You don't eat pizza.
I don't eat pizza.
He doesn't eat pizza.
But I do like. No, I wouldn't, because I would get the Phoenix or the smoked pastrami one from Paisans. I use my hands.
Austin says, "Me, DB, some unseasoned tuna salad and a knife and fork. Let's go, baby."
Dude, yesterday. I just got some sardines.
I'd watch that podcast.
I just got some sardines and chili oil. Shout out your boy.
Big sardines guy?
Yes. Kipper snacks too.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Dude, they were $17.
Not doing that.
Would you ever eat the
head?
Verstramen or whatever? Surstramen?
Of the
no, not the head of that's
weird. Sardines come with the head on them?
No.
Which one am I thinking?
They can, but they don't.
Okay, the ones you buy don't.
Yeah, this ain't Popeyes like the cartoon.
I'm just saying, like, there was I went to a restaurant once that had some people with
the head is not on
when they do the fancy Caesar salads, they'll put the sardines on there. No. And some people will put and I'm like, I don't need eyeballs at a restaurant, man. Like, let's chill.
Me neither.
Not doing that.
Did you ever eat fermented Baltic herring?
I'm not a big fermented anything guy. I'm dead serious. The process of fermenting is
except alcohol. You're in on alcohol.
Very much so.
That's different.
It's definitely different.
It's a lot.
That's like aging your meat in a barn. It's different.
It's fermentation, though.
Hey, leave my man Jack alone. Jack knows what Jack's lived longer than any of us. I'm sure he's doing something right.
That's a fallacy in logic there.
Why?
Because there's a lot of people that live for a long time that are not doing a lot right. A lot of it's luck and genetics.
I think a grumpy old man. What Burgess Meredith say? He turns and burns grits and eats a pound of bacon every day.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you should be like, yeah, I should start smoking so I live longer. Like, that's not.
There are plenty of people who smoked and lived for a long time.
So everybody hates canned fish now.
Yeah, Stevie says being a can. Sardines are different than other canned fish.
Kipper snacks are elite too.
I don't even. What are Kipper snacks?
Sardines are worse than other canned fish. That's
sardines greater than tuna, and I'll rock with tuna. But I eat tuna out of the packet. I don't eat it out of the can.
I don't eat tuna unless it's in sushi.
I love sushi.
I do.
If I asked people right now, sardines or tuna, there's way more people that would say tuna.
Because I think they have a perception of sardines without really trying them.
My thought was sardines in the can with they're sort of cured a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They got the juice.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me because that's a specific version of sardines as opposed to tuna where canning it, you're not pickling it, you're not curing it. It's just this is just a preservation
mushed.
Yeah, it's just a worse version of regular tuna as opposed to I feel like sardines are a totally different thing when you're.
So are you just out on protein in a can? Do you eat Spam?
No, I haven't eaten a lot of Spam, but I used to eat the canned chicken a lot. When I was powerlifting, I ate a lot of canned chicken because it was an easy way to get I think there was the big ones.
Because I'm just telling you, canned meat that people doing mason jars is horrific.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I'll crush some Spam though.
Would you eat canned meat?
I love Spam.
So I mean, in a mason jar,
No.
Oh no, that looks like a science experiment.
No, like home jarred meat.
Yeah.
No. The only thing I willingly ate was I would eat canned chicken, which wasn't
Channel
good.
3, Sean. Tuna can hang out with deviled eggs in the trash. Dude, how do you hate on deviled eggs?
Are sardines crunchy?
No.
I'm here with Channel 3, Sean, man. Like I don't want deviled eggs. I don't want tuna unless it's in a sushi roll.
Oh, he had a funny tweet last night.
Yeah, what did he say?
He goes, he was watching Nebraska baseball at Creighton, and he goes, the biggest surprise of tonight's outcome is to find out that Andy Jackson's dating a Blue Jay.
He was at a different Big East school, but he transferred to Creighton so he could be closer to her.
Yeah. Yes. And the camera had a weird affinity with Andy Jackson. I was like, okay, this is
Camera crews do some weird stuff sometimes. I need him to chill, you know? Like sometimes I need to just chill out a little bit. Like
speaking of broadcast, shout out to Lauren Camenzind on the broadcast last night for baseball for the Student Network.
Talk about baptism by fire. Then their broadcast dropped, so they had to port it over to their in-house deal.
Oh no.
Yeah, I cheer for those guys, even though I think that particular college at the university like frowns at people like me because I didn't
go to any of that.
I'm not conventional. So the downside of that people don't talk about is, like they act like, oh, he's the chosen, whatever. And it's like, I take as much grief for that as anything. Like I'm very unconventional on this journey.
We both are in that sense. It also,
but I'm not supposed to be getting gigs on Westwood 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it also can take a lot longer to go the unconventional route.
I am old.
Speaking from personal experience.
I'm old. Pickled herring. It's not pickled, it's smoked. I'm not eating pickled herring though.
Are you a big big pickled things guy in general?
No.
I don't think that's not your vibe.
No. We do our own pickles at our house. I haven't had one.
Like cucumbers?
I don't believe in wasting a good cucumber. We got cucumbers are elite.
Yep, we've got Sean here.
All right, I'm sure he likes cucumbers.
Let's get to Sean Deveney here from heavy.com. Sean, appreciate you joining us. How we doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Sean, big cucumber.
I feel like I interrupted something.
Yeah, we were just talking food. Would you or would you not eat meat out of a can?
Eat meat out of a can? No. I mean, there's those Vienna sausages. I don't care for those. Spam, I don't care for. So I'd have to go no.
What about fish? Tuna, sardines?
Oh, yeah. Tuna, okay. I eat out of a can. Yeah.
Okay.
You almost have to, don't you?
At least I know you're American. I like that. It's fine.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a philosophical question before we get into the playoffs? I have an idea that I'm trying to float for anti-tanking because I'm a big, see if we can get guys to play. I don't really want to shorten the season. How feasible is it, Sean? Because I haven't thought about it. Like if teams are like 62 games in, right? So you got 20 games to go. Could you build a season ticket package or leave it TBD to put the bottom, have to be an even number, bottom 14 or 16 teams in their own kind of playoff league to let the teams finish with the best records pick in that order? Is that feasible if we've sat down and thought about it from a scheduling standpoint?
There was something involving basically a tournament for lottery teams that was floated. It was not one of the three proposals that made it to the competition committee. So that won't be, but it's an idea that's been out there that, where you almost have to play for a higher spot in the lottery. And, what you're getting at, I think is the right thing. And that is, what are we incentivizing teams to do? If you're incentivizing them to lose, they're going to try to lose. If you can find a way to incentivize them to win, to help them in the future, that'd be great. It's so hard to do, and they really haven't figured that out. So, it's tough. It's a really tough issue. It was worse this year because the draft is good, because you're probably going to have, 4, maybe 5 top level players, at least 3, sort of elite players, and maybe a couple others, depending on how you see them. And as long as that's the case, you're going to get teams that are going to try to lose and try to improve their odds. But yeah, finding a way to take that incentive away, that's the big challenge.
I don't necessarily think they were tanking. I know I made fun of them for giving this guy another run in Doc Rivers, but it's clearly dysfunctional in Milwaukee. Is Giannis is he bulletproof when it comes to blame in Milwaukee since he's got a championship?
I think, all right, so if we go back to when they were talking about trading him at the deadline in February, I think at that point he was bulletproof. I think the things that have happened in the last 2.5 months have changed that. I think the way that he's talked and probably the most frustrating things for fans in Milwaukee is the way he's kind of gone back and forth. And it's sort of like, you got to pick a lane here. If you don't want to be here, and sometimes it sounds like you don't, you act like you don't, then you've got to be able to say that. If you do want to be here, you've got to make that very clear as well. And it's just not clear. And I think that that's something that the organization has felt, they're trying to balance over the last couple of years. And they've taken all the blame for that. But now I think more and more people are seeing that the organization is just reacting to the fact that Giannis doesn't seem to know what he wants to do either. So that kind of gives them a little bit more of a pass and puts more of this on Giannis.
He's got to be the leak, right? I mean, who else is telling what's going on in turn? That's the worst, by the way, right? Like that's like the best friend that when you break up, like they knew everything all along. Like nobody wants to be friends with those people. Like,
yeah,
they got to be the leak, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's 3 Antetokounmpos in that locker room, so it's probably one of them. Your chances are pretty good just percentage wise, but I think it's the weird thing is that I think Giannis's people, I think his camp, want him to be gone. I think Giannis doesn't want to be the bad guy who goes to them and says, trade me. That's been pretty clear. He doesn't want to do that. And the organization is sitting there and they're saying, we're not going to trade you until you ask us. So it's like just this staring contest that's been going on and on. Somebody's got to be the one to break it and say, it's a lot like the Damian Lillard thing in Portland a couple of years ago was the same exact situation where everybody knew he had to go. They had to rebuild. He needed to go somewhere he had a chance to win. But nobody wanted to be the bad guy. Nobody wanted to be the one that said, okay, you're out of here or I'm out of here. The longer you wait on these things, the worse it gets. And I think that's where we are with Milwaukee.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say somebody else there. This has started to give me like late stage Orlando Dwight Howard vibes.
Yeah,
like
right. I was thinking more recent, but it is exactly like the Dwight Howard thing. That's been 15 years ago now. But yeah, the press conferences with Stan Van Gundy that were so weird, and Dwight would say something and say, but his agent Dan Fagan at the time, I distinctly remember talking to Dan and him saying, we just want to get him out of there. But Dwight, was very concerned with being the nice guy and didn't want to be the jerk who said, get me out of here.
Well, that did not age well either for our perception of Dwight Howard.
Or for his career, to be honest. I mean, he was never the same after he left Orlando.
Sean, let me ask you something. We'll go right to last night. Inexplicably, the Heat finding a way to lose. But Charlotte, I mean, they were the favorite, expected to win that game anyway. Is there something for learning how to win, given where the age and experience of that basketball team is?
Yeah, and especially because, this is a franchise I believe hasn't been in the playoffs in 10 years. So, just as a franchise to be able to take that step. And if you go and you get slaughtered by Boston, then that's fine. But at least you've now you dipped your toe in those waters, and you can start to try to get somewhere from there. So I think this is very big for for Charlotte. And you'll have other situations where, look, if Miami had gotten into the playoffs, would it be that much? It really wouldn't change things for the Heat. It wouldn't be a big situation for them. But for Charlotte, this is definitely big. As a franchise that's really, really struggled and just gotten nowhere. So the fact that they can, hang their hats on the playoffs and how well they played in the second half, where they sort of found an identity, this is definitely big for them.
As you're looking at the playoff field, and I know we got some of the play-in games to work out still, but as you're looking at the playoff field, how many teams do you think can legitimately win the title?
Well, obviously you've got two out west. If you include San Antonio, and I would, just because they played Orlando, they played Oklahoma City so tough. So I think you've got two out west.
You don't include them.
I would say Denver's the dark horse. If you'd have them on a second tier, but I wouldn't necessarily. I would not put money on them.
Okay.
In other words, but in the East, I think it is a little more open. I do think the Celtics are the favorite. Which you'd see. I don't discount Detroit's chances, even though they're a young team. They are the number one seed. They've been very good. They're getting Cade back. They've got some momentum there. I think they have some pretty big holes that are easy to exploit in the playoffs. So I wouldn't necessarily put them at the top, but I'd include them as a contender. And then the Knicks and the Cavaliers as well. I'd probably if I was ranking, I'd probably go Boston. I'd probably have Cleveland number 2. I think that their firepower and their ability to defend when they're healthy, they haven't been healthy all year. Then I think they're the second best team. The Knicks, they're just, the talent is there. Just something is not right with that team and really hasn't been for the last couple of years. We'll see if they can iron it out, but I'd have them 3 and then the Pistons 4 if I was ranking those East teams. But I think any of those teams could come out of the East.
That's interesting because the Cavs hammered the Celtics at the end of the regular season a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And that gave people a precursor. But do you trust, who's the guy in Cleveland that you trust in playoff time, considering they have 2 that historically have underperformed?
Right. You get a couple of guys who are maybe 50% what they usually are in the playoffs, but hey, maybe you add them together and you get 100%, right? So, but you're right. The thing about those 2 guys, though, is that they are going to make it tough on defenses. You can't focus on one guy or the other. And that's a real challenge for a defense, especially when you consider you've got Evan Mobley and you've got Jared Allen, who does what he does offensively. He's not going to be a 25-point game, but you got to pay attention to him. So they've got a bunch of guys that they've got to pay attention to. They defend really well. They made the deal, the Keon Ellis deal there, and that's worked out well for them. The thing that's held them back has been health. If they can stay healthy, then I think they're as dangerous as anybody because you've got those 2 options. You've got 2 number 1 options in that backcourt. You've got a very tough front court defense, and you've got a lot of depth coming off that bench as well. So I think Cleveland is dangerous. You're right that historically Donovan Mitchell and especially James Harden have come up short in the playoffs. But between the 2 of them, you got to think one of them is going to have it going. Throughout this postseason.
Sean, out of the teams in the East that you just listed off, who matches up the best with whoever comes out of the West? I'm assuming OKC or San Antonio, or is there just not a hope for the East once they get there?
Yeah, I would go with the latter there. That there probably isn't much hope. I think the Celtics would have the best opportunity. Certainly to the experience, but the way that they're able to move the ball. The way that they do play very unselfishly, they can match the depth that Oklahoma City has, which is remarkable considering everything the Celtics went through last offseason when they had to get rid of a bunch of guys to clear out salary. But they've done a very good job developing younger players, guys like Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez. They get Vucevic from the Bulls. He's coming off the bench, so they've got a bunch of different ways they can hit you. And they still have 2 of the hardest guys to guard, and that's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I don't think the Thunder have great matchups for those guys. You can put Dort on one of them, but you can't put him on both of them. and I think that they're going to have an advantage. They're going to be able to find advantages with everybody else. So I'd say probably the Celtics there.
Let me ask you, I'm kind of going not off the grid, but they're a fascinating team just because we keep waiting. And he's my old neighbor back in Lincoln. What do you do with Tyronn Lue and kind of the prowess of what the Clippers are or aren't?
Tyronn Lue will have that job as long as he wants it. And my question is I'd probably flip that and say, does he want it? Does he still want it? Is he going to look at this situation and say, I've kind of done all I'm going to be able to do with this group, especially, if Kawhi Leonard, something happens with him. That's sort of been in limbo. Nobody really knows how. I think most of us thought it was going to be resolved by now. But, the scandal with him and the extra contract and all that stuff. So, I think if that works out where Kawhi Leonard winds up getting released from his contract, they've already done the Zubac trade. And it's clear they're going to have to move in a direction. And even if they still do have Leonard, they could look to trade him and bring in some assets and start a rebuild. At that point, if I'm Ty Lue, I might say it's time to hand this off. It's time to go in a different direction. He could take a year off and be the number one coach on the market next year. He could probably jump in and if he got the Clippers to agree to let him out of his contract, he'd probably jump and get a pretty good job right now if he wanted. So I think for that team, it's probably a matter of does Ty Lue want to keep going with this, or does he want to maybe part ways with them?
Looking back on the regular season, who are you looking at as kind of the front runner for MVP? I know votes either had to be in, I think this week. But you got obviously SGA's in that conversation. I think Victor Wembanyama is obviously in that conversation. Like, where are you? Who are the other candidates that you think should be talked about, or is that all?
No, I think Jaylen Brown certainly belongs in there as well. You could argue for Luka considering what was going on in the second half.
Jokic,
and certainly Jokic is in there as well. So I think that's the five. But I think it probably does when you look at team wise and from start to finish. I think it probably does come down to Wemby and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And this whole 65 game thing is going to be an interesting test in terms of what they allow, whether Luka, who's challenging this threshold, whether that holds up or not. It's definitely it's definitely interesting. It's going to have an impact on how things go from here. But I think in terms of this year, I think you'd have to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as number one. Just the way the consistency. I mean, he broke the record for most 20-point games in a row. Just to be able to do that every night for the best team in the league, I think he deserves credit for that. Deserves the MVP again.
Is it fair to say, or am I just I'll be honest, I don't love SGA, so I'm going to preface it with that.
Haters, right?
Is it fair to say that if SGA gets it over Wemby this year, that we basically are just like, hey, doesn't matter what you do defensively, we're not counting it in the MVP race?
Well, I wouldn't say SGA is a bad defensive player. Certainly that's a good defensive team, and he's a significant part of that. But if the question is, does Wemby deserve credit for what he does defensively and how much he changed? Absolutely, yeah, and that's a factor. I think with Wemby, the reason I'd probably have him a little less, is I don't think that he was doing he was playing at his peak every night. There was, especially early in the year, if you look, there were a lot more ups and downs. He was dealing with some injuries and things like that. There were a lot more ups and downs for him. That's why I would favor SGA. Look, if Wemby played the way he did from February 1st through the end of the year, if he played that way the whole season, I think there's no question he'd be the MVP. But I think that the consistency thing is the thing that sort of puts Gilgeous-Alexander over the top for me, at least.
Last night was standing because he normally kills the heat. I think he's averaging, I don't know, almost 25 a night against him. Will the extra exposure help Con Knippel with the Rookie of the Year, or did Flagg finally run him down?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think everybody kind of knows. Look, Knippel probably was leading this thing up until about mid-March, and then, and then Cooper Flagg really came on to close the year. And again, like if I think voters need to look start to finish. And Flagg was terrific, and he had some really great moments, but he had some struggles too, and I thought Knippel over the course of the year for a team that's in the playoffs, I think that even before the playoffs or the play-in, anything before that starts, if you just end at the end of the season, I still thought it should have been Knippel just with the way he's played start to finish, and whereas Cooper, obviously has the higher ceiling and obviously is going to be a star. But, I think you look at 2025, 26, and you look at this season, I think start to finish, what Knippel did, he probably deserves it more.
Let me ask you, this is probably more philosophical than factual, but, every year with the NBA playoffs, the first round, you always get clunkers, right? I mean, it's just so mismatched and lopsided. But the league is supposed to be predicated on almost just the opposite, especially if you look at NBA champions over the past handful of years, right? Anything's possible. Why do you think those first rounds are so over unevenly matched in one of the major sports?
Yeah, and it's a great question. And the league has. You're right that the league has made parity and trying to find different ways to even things out, a real priority for it. But you go back and I remember those Warriors, that team, what was that, 2007 I think it was, that they beat Dallas in the first round, the number 8 seed upsetting, and that was way before they were doing all this parity stuff. So, has things changed? Have they done enough to, really change, the possibility of a lower seed beating, of more teams getting involved and really having a chance at a championship? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it to me, because I agree with you. A lot of these matchups are, they're just check marks to go on to the conference semis, and that's where things get a little bit tougher. But there's no situation with a healthy team. The Lakers being the exception, but there's no situation where a healthy team, you look at the matchup and you say, they have a chance to lose this if you're the higher seed. All the higher seeds, I think, are pretty strong favorites going into the playoffs, and that's not what the league wanted. So, it is interesting. I don't know why that is, but I know they've tried to change it, and it just hasn't worked.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's weird, and their leading scorer, obviously, in KD, goes for 26 a night. It has to be the quietest 26 a night that I think a guy can have in the league, even for Kevin Durant's prowess. But when you look at a team that could kind of defy that, what we just talked about with upsets and maybe coming from off the radar, is there a team that's better built that fits the criteria than the Rockets?
No, I mean, I would say the Rockets, certainly, even if the Lakers were healthy, right? Let's say Luka's playing and Austin Reeves are playing. I would still think that would be a very good series. That the Lakers would not have a free pass to the second round with that one. But because it's been a disappointing year, I think, for the Rockets. I think that losing Fred VanVleet for the year really hurt them. He's a guy who just kind of gets things organized. He's the adult in the room. Sometimes we've seen this with Kevin Durant. He's not the adult in the room. And despite being 37 years old and, all the Twitter stuff and all that, I really felt like losing Fred VanVleet. I think we've seen that over the year. Has really hurt that team. But the talent is there. When you look at what they have depth-wise, whether it's Smith and Sengun, they've got a lot of Thompson. They've got a lot of players around Kevin Durant where the talent is there. They've just got to really be able to put it together. So, I'd say that is a team that's very much built that way. I feel bad for Philadelphia because I thought they were a team that had a chance to be dangerous in the East because they haven't been healthy all year. They had the suspension with Paul George and all that. But they get George back. VJ Edgecombe has been great. Tyrese Maxey's played very well. And then finally, it looks like Joel Embiid is healthy and the knees are going to hold up at least for a little while. And then he gets an appendix. Like it's just that completely, of all the injuries that Joel Embiid could have, it would be the last one that you'd expect. But that's his inability to be on the floor kind of changes things. But I really thought Philadelphia was one of those teams that you just didn't want to play if you were a higher seed in the Eastern Conference. But if Embiid can't be out there, that obviously changes dramatically for them.
How hard does Edgecombe play? Goodness.
Last year's draft, really you go back and look at it and, he was, probably underrated, and he went probably higher than some expected, but man, he's been everything that they could have hoped for, and really, when you look at their future, it'd be interesting to see what they do with George and what they do with Embiid and how that works out. But if you've got that backcourt, Maxey and Edgecombe, that's a tough duo. And it'd be interesting to see what they do going forward.
Sean, last one for me. What do you do with the Timberwolves? Obviously, they've got the back-to-back Western Conference Finals, didn't have the regular season that they wanted, but they do have, I think, someone that we consider one of those guys that can kind of single-handedly turn a series in Anthony Edwards. Like, what do you do with Minnesota?
Yeah, and it's tough because they've dealt with injuries down the stretch here as well, and I don't think that Edwards or McDaniels, for that matter, is completely 100% right now. Both of those guys have had knee issues and things like that, so that's going to really affect them as well. But they're one of those teams that they're like when I was growing up, the Milwaukee Bucks of the 1980s. Who are just a very good team and always tough, but could never really be on that next level.
Yeah,
they never really can break through with that. It's a good question because the pieces they don't have a whole lot else coming up. They have everybody they have is kind of aging out now, whether it's Randall and Gobert, guys like that. So they don't have a whole lot else coming up around Anthony Edwards, and that's going to be a situation where, we talk about the Bucks. This is the kind of thing where if you make a move, you want to make it too early rather than too late. And for them, if they go out in the first round, and most of us expect they will, even though they're probably going to give Denver a heck of a series, when you look at where they are, you kind of want to start making the moves now rather than waiting, because they've got to bring in some guys who are on Anthony Edwards' timeline. He's still a young guy, and kind of move some of these veterans out so that they're better aligned going forward. But they'll have some tough decisions to make here as well.
Last 1.5 for me. Quieter 60-win team than the Pistons, and is with a lot of Cade Cunningham potential types in the backcourt of this draft. Who's your top pick in the draft?
I would have to go with Damon as my top pick. The Peterson stuff, it was just so weird, and maybe it's nothing, and maybe he gets the NBA and people forget what his season was like at Kansas this year. But it's just that would worry me, because either the guy is thinking about his NBA future and not his team, and trying to protect his health that way, or whatever it was, it looked like he wasn't a guy who really wanted to play that much. And I kind of want a guy who just wants to play basketball. And he didn't seem to be like that. And so that would scare me off. And because you have obviously a great other option there with that Vance, I would have to go with him. I think that, certainly the NCAA tournament wasn't great for him, but he did enough this year to show that at 6'9" as a perimeter scorer, that's the kind of guy that teams are always looking for. So I'd have to go there with my number one pick.
Coincidence that you referenced the Celtics, the Cavs, and then the Knicks without talking about the 60-win Pistons.
Yeah, right. And you asked me a question, and then I forgot to address it. So that tells you how forgettable they are.
It's a weird team to have been played that well.
No, you're right. And, they've got Cade, and they don't have a whole lot else in terms of like NBA stars. And I think that's one reason why they're sort of overlooked. And they play hard, they play great defense. That because of that, they've been able to win 6 games. But people also look at, but you look at them and you say, okay, well, what are they going to do in the playoffs? They can't shoot. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. And as good as their defense is, you get them in the half court, you can kind of pick them apart a little bit. And I think that's how a lot of people see things playing out for them once they get to that second round. So, it's a good question because they've done nothing. And even when Cade went out,
yeah,
I mean, Jenkins there, Dennis Jenkins was fantastic. And they kept winning. Everybody was like, wow, they're not going to hold on to that number 1 seed. But, Jenkins was fantastic and they kept right on rolling. And you're right. They don't get any credit, including from me, apparently. So I can't really talk about them that way. But, look, they've, certainly they've exceeded expectations. And that's what happens. A team that exceeds expectations, people are going to have some doubts until they do it consistently. I think that's sort of where the Pistons are right now.
Sean Deveney from Heavy.com. Sean, appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
That's Sean Deveney from Heavy.com.
I know you saw Dennis Jenkins coming after you watched him dribble all around for St. John last year.
Yep. I was like, oh, that's a guy I definitely want on my team.
He's going for 10 a night in the league.
No, listen, he's been good for them. How
about many more elbow jumpers were you going to watch him hit?
Listen, I kind of like an elbow jumper. I got a little love for Sean Livingston in my heart forever. Let's take a quick break here. We're going to talk to Kevin Suits from 1011 News in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Live. Yeah, one of the biggest surprises to me coming to Nebraska has been the fans on the road. And whether it's in the fall or the spring, it's pretty amazing to see the support that we have all over the country. And, coming to a small town-ish, I wouldn't really call Sioux Falls a small town, but, coming where everybody's appreciative that we're here, they're laying out the red carpet. I think it puts into perspective just, where our program's at, and that we don't want to take that for granted, and we want to continue to sports bring people joy, so we want to continue to do that as much as we can around the country.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
The Unga is up, and Stokes, he goes the opposite way. That's in for a base hit. 7 through 9 for Nebraska cannot be stopped. They've got their first lead of the night off the bat of Rhett Stokes.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Kevin Suits from 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, how are we doing this morning? Kevin, can you hear me?
Oh, Kevin.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? He doesn't typically panic. Did he? He might have just froze on us a little bit, Shano.
Oh, he just blinked. He's not frozen.
No, he is. No, he's not frozen at all. Kevin, can you hear us okay? No. All right. There's a lot of things going on.
There's a lot going on there.
They took him. He said he just blinked.
He's probably doing a reset here.
Oh, is he?
All right, we'll give it a little time.
Yeah. How about AK being jealous of Suits segments?
That's true. He's like, I gotta get on video now.
Yeah. He's feeling the pressure.
You know, gotta
subliminal pressure.
They're gonna start battling with backgrounds, I think, now.
Yeah, well, nobody's gonna be able to just like stop on a busy street in OKC and knock out an interview. Street side cars going by, people, passerbys. I get it. It's just the camera. It's just his phone.
You were saying,
listen,
the level to which you were enamored by that.
Yeah, because like you're just gonna get out of your car and stop and have an interview. Like you would be uncomfortable.
No, I don't think I would be.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I think you would. I think you would.
Kevin, can you hear us? You there?
I got you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right. Sorry about that. This better be worth it. My goodness. And that's
all good, man. How we doing today?
We're all right. Full transparency. Just got back from my first story of the day. Just talked to Kai Vanis, Lincoln Pius X baseball player, leads the state in the home runs. Pius had their signing day, and you just get the sense being in these high schools that there's a lot of senior-itis happening right now, and I can feel it. It's all right.
The weather doesn't help either because
as soon as it starts gets warm,
the nicer it gets, the less these guys want to be where they are. But I want to start right there because I just had this conversation Friday at the invite. Do you think his power game? How do you think it transitions to the next level?
He doesn't have to hit for power at the next level. That's what Kai was just sharing with me. Is that he hasn't really retooled his swing. He's just being more, his approach is different. He's trying to provide power, not for him. And this is what I really found interesting is that, it's not like he just wants to hit more home runs, which I think would be the natural answer for any high school kid. Like, yeah, I want to hit dingers. That's cool. Chicks dig the long ball. But for him, it's just about his team needs a little more pop in the lineup. So he's trying to provide that. It's an unselfish thing. And he's being more selective at the plate and he's hunting pitches that he can drive. So fascinating for me. I just learned quite a bit and it's fun being around some of these high school seniors. And I love the fact that the weather, like it actually feels like baseball season now. I know it started that way, but then it just got so incredibly windy and damp. And it's like the season started and then it kind of hit the regular Nebraska spring sports season where everybody's like bundled up and using hand warmers for a couple of weeks. And now it's like, forget the coat. We're going to go watch a lot of good baseball now. And here in Lincoln, we got the HAC semifinals and championship today. And in the HAC tournament, the 4 semifinalists are the top 4 seeds. We might get a Lincoln East versus Lincoln Southwest championship tonight on what could be a beautiful night at Den Hartog Field.
Yeah, I got to see Lincoln well represented for the invite. It was the top 7 wild card seeds in that tournament. It was sensational. And it's interesting, going back to the story, I wish I could say to myself, number one, I don't have the ability, but hey, you know what? Our lineup needs a few more home runs. I think I'm just going to kind of dial in on hitting home runs. Oh, is that cool? Everybody good with that? I'm just going to pick and choose to leave the building. All right, then I'll leave the state. Must be rough, like having the ability to do that.
Well, he's got 6 home runs in I don't know how many they've played, 12 games, something like that. Like that's okay, and he's going to continue that approach. So, yeah, I love high school baseball. I think you guys know this about me. These kids, especially being a part of the youth scene, you're now able to see these kids like succeed at the high school level. And I think here in the Lincoln area and larger Lincoln area, there is some really good baseball. There's some good players. There's some good teams. And now that the weather has changed, excited to see more and more of some of these teams in action. There are some great games here this week in particular across the capital city.
Yeah, I think I've long maintained at least 10, 12, maybe more years now. Softball and baseball are arguably the two most self-sustaining in-state talent-rich sports I think we've got going at the high school level.
Yeah, and I just mentioned I talked to Kai Vanis, and he's signed with Omaha. Now, granted, he signed back in November, but today is signing day.
Yeah.
So he said he's like, I didn't put anything. There was no ink that touched the paper. No kidding. But it's nice for them to get in front of all their classmates in the school and the parents and supporters and be recognized. But Kai's going to Omaha, and so is Vernon from Lincoln Southwest, and Kalai Larson of Lincoln East, and there's a Lincoln East pitcher, Kean Shadwinkle. He's committed in next year's class. So Omaha has done a fantastic job of identifying really skilled players and just keeping them in state. These guys have options. They can go play at a number of institutions, but they're deciding to play Division I baseball and stay where mom and dad don't have to travel too far to watch them.
And look what we just saw last night with the Van Tigers and the Ungers, and I mean, there's several local guys represented with just what we saw last night in Nebraska. They clinched the season series, another midweek notch. That was kind of tricky, though, at least for me on the you've got USC looming. You're coming off the Oregon emotional weekend. For what it was, I felt like last night was pivotal.
Especially got off to a slow start.
Yeah.
You fall behind early.
Yeah, and my man Drew Grigo, offensively and defensively. That's my guy.
It was pivotal because Creighton is probably playing the best baseball they've played all season. And so you get a hot team with the rivalry element to it, and Nebraska coming off some tough losses. So Wilbold even said after the fact that they needed to be on the right side of a one-run game. And pivotal because of what happened this past weekend in Oregon, and pivotal because what lies ahead this weekend against USC, with Nebraska hosting the 12th ranked team in college baseball. So yes, this is a team that needed to feel good, and also, and maybe more importantly, needed some momentum going into arguably the biggest 3-game stretch of the entire season. If Nebraska can win the series against USC, right back in the thick of everything, not that they're out of it right now, but there's just going to be some momentum heading into the backside of April and then into May. Don't even want to talk about what could happen if Nebraska drops the series at home to USC, but the opportunity that lies ahead for this team to continue to make a push toward the postseason, this is pretty big. And I would suspect that Haymarket Park is going to be pretty alive Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, especially if the weather is going to be nice with the opponent that's coming in and the way that this team has played. How many times have fans showed up to the old ballpark in Lincoln with the national ranking next to Nebraska's name against the team with the national ranking? This is going to be a really, really fun weekend at Haymarket Park.
So Coach Bolt, like a couple of weeks in a row now, it started with Kansas where he's like, hey, KU kind of brought it to us a little bit, a little edgy. Oregon, a little edgy. Certainly a lot of edgy. You saw last night Ty Horn with the little stare downs. Stokes, whatever's going on there with that back and forth. You think this team's kind of embracing, and I don't mean like the fake tough guy stuff, but they're kind of embracing who they have to be to kind of see this thing through from the end of the season, because their coach has talked openly about this kind of toughness.
1,000%. When Darren Erstad was the coach, it's like Nebraska, they had an edge to them, but everything was still pretty kind of even. They played with an edge, gritty, not pretty, but at the end of it, they're not running their mouths. They're not doing too many extracurriculars. Right now, we're starting to see a little bit of a change, I feel like, because Will Bolt, like, he will fight for his team. You saw what happened a week ago Tuesday when Kansas was in town, when Bolt got ejected. Now we're starting to see this team go nose to nose physically with Oregon. And you're getting some verbal backing of the way that they're playing with Ty Horn and that amazing quote from last night saying there was some FU behind that pitch. Like, what? Like,
Dude,
that's an all-time quote right there.
Hilarious.
And
I was like, who is he looking at?
it's a representation of the way that this team is a little bit edgy. And I like your word that you use, DB, there, that they have the edge. Yes, they play that way when it comes down to the bat, the ball, the glove, the throw. Now we're starting to see it in just the moxie of this team. And I think it lends itself to maybe having a pretty entertaining backside of the season.
Yeah, Worthley's like that. You know his personality. Super confident. Unger's like that. Like, they have some guys that don't mind being like that.
And that's where I really like the move of Ty Horn to the bullpen because, you know, when you're a starter, you have to stay a little bit more composed. You have to have that poise. Your defense is going to play the way that the mannerisms of the starting pitcher present. When you're a reliever, you need to come in, especially if you come in a high leverage situation, you have to have a little bit of that FU that Ty Horn is talking about, like that, just that persona. And if you give him the ball with nobody out and 2 runners on in a tight game, if you're on the mound with that insane confidence, yeah, your defenders are going to play a little bit that way too. So I just kind of like what's happening here in terms of these, the characteristics of the team and the way that they're behaving. And I will say that there was a game a couple of weeks ago. My family and I, we were hanging out by the bullpen, the Nebraska bullpen. And man, those boys are verbal down there. And, you know, they don't keep quiet. This isn't church out in Nebraska's bullpen. They'll let their mouths run a little bit. And again, that's another thing that I witnessed that kind of lends itself to this edginess about this team. And they're willing to go there because they feel like their play can back it up.
Kevin, as we kind of sit here, you know, you talk about that edginess. It seemed like it started to really bubble up with the opponents, at least a few weeks ago against Kansas the first time around. And then, you know, you get what happens with Oregon. Is it possible this is just kind of what Nebraska brings out in people? I know originally we thought like, hey, Kansas is kind of like that. It kind of seems like there's a common denominator here, though.
Maybe. Great point. Great conversation. Man, but Nebraska's always they're Nebraska nice, right? Like this goes against,
man. How long you've been around Worthley a long time.
Oh my goodness. Maybe that's why I'm so enamored by it and thrilled that this is kind of the way the season is playing out, because this completely goes against Nebraska nice. It's no like Nebraska naughty, you know, like we're going to run our mouths and we're going to like get in your face and we're going to try to push it a little bit. Sure. Like this is great for me, you know? I guess now that you think about some of the personalities on the team, we shouldn't be so surprised because they have some dudes that aren't afraid to get some dirt underneath their fingernails.
Yeah. Let me, I want to, how long ago did you think you'd be going, you know, to the set and you'd be doing these pieces on who Nebraska's retaining in their basketball program as like a mark of success?
Well, the announcements of their resigning with Nebraska, and you're like,
this is. Are you not fascinated? You've done this a while. Like, this is like Bizarro World.
Okay, so was Cale Jacobson ever going to leave Nebraska?
This is a conversation I had yesterday, Kevin, where I was like, do we need an announcement for that one? Did we really?
Oh, you guys.
When is the Henry Burt coming back post going to happen?
Oh, Lord.
Well, I mean, seriously, like, I don't mean to say like sound insincere here and diminish what's happening and the significance of Nebraska's historic season, but like did we need an announcement that Cale Jacobson is going to return to Nebraska? The only announcement that needs to be made is if he's going to actually leave, which no one thinks that's going to happen, because he's the hometown kid. You know, he's an Ashland kid. He loves Nebraska. He bleeds Nebraska. He represents like all that is good with a kid that had chased a dream and then got to contribute on the best team in Nebraska men's basketball history. That is so great. Like, there is no world in which Cale Jacobson would leave Nebraska. You know, not to mention he's dating like the volleyball team's superstar. Like, so why are we doing this? Because we can. Just because you can. This is something I tell my kids and colleagues. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. But I guess in 2026, if you can put a fancy graphic and create some conversation of what kind of coffee is next to the notice, like on the infographic, sure, go for it.
I'm telling you,
it is really wild to me. But then again, I shouldn't be surprised, because if you noticed, following the Nebraska women's basketball season, one by one, each of those young ladies did an Instagram post saying,
and I think
running it back next year.
Yeah, was it Nisley and Prince, or was it Widener and Prince that were like sitting on the bench together and they're like, we're back? And I was like, oh, this is what we're doing now.
And that came after, like, even Kennedy Williams posted something like, I'm coming back next year. Oh, you don't say, right? Like, your mom's the coach and you're a sophomore and you're contributing, and like, you get to play softball at Nebraska too. But I guess this is more a commentary on, 19, 20, like young ladies, young men, and their addiction to social media and posts. And I'm sure that there were 1,000 discussions about like, which picture should I do and what should my caption say, because I have teenagers at home. And
so I don't mind it.
That's not, Kevin, that's not where I was going with it. I thought it was more commentary just on the state of college sports right now. Like, that's how I took it, in the sense of like, it's kind of a bummer that you have to have announcements that every single person that comes back. I mean, you mentioned Nebraska women did it, Creighton women and men's basketball did it, where it's like, hey, everybody that comes back. Like, I didn't think Jason Green was going anywhere either. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think Isaac Trout was going anywhere, but we get announcements that they're coming. I certainly didn't think Shane Thomas was going anywhere, but like, you get these announcements that everybody's coming back. And so, like, to me, it's less about the kids and more about like, hey, this is just the state of college sports, where you have to shore up your roster in a way that I'm just not totally used to yet.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's used to it, but I really get what you're saying, Ravi. It is, because everybody wants to know what's the roster look like, and anybody can do whatever they want anymore. And so maybe you do need to announce like what your roster looks like.
Well, and it's
ever flowing.
It's damaging to the recruiting process if the guys that are potentially coming in don't know who's going to be there with them.
Yeah.
Right. So you try and get it done as quickly as possible, so you can be like, okay, now I got to go get guys to fill the rest of the roster out, and they know who they're going to be playing with.
So you're saying they're not doing it for clicks?
I don't think so. I think it's that's not how I took it, at least. I really took it as just like it's sort of a, I'm generally very pro like player movement and whatever you need to do for what's best for your career. But like, it is kind of a bummer that that's just the place that we're at, where it's like, yeah, these people that should obviously be coming back, we still have to make announcements about, because you just never know, I guess. Except for like Sam Hoiberg was coming back.
I have teenagers in the home.
Yeah,
I think that I lean a little bit in a different vein of this.
You're a little jaded towards the click part, right?
Yes, because the time that we spend discussing what the caption should be for the Instagram post, it's like, knock it off.
You're a lot cooler dad than I am. I'd punch like Micah knows I would. He's risking a karate chop to the throat if he asked me something like that. I'm not near as cool. But Kevin, and I want to let me ask you about the Iowa here first before I get you out here and something funny. Level of surprise, or what has to happen? Iowa gets the tampering allegations with Coach Ferentz and that staff. Is there a message that you think can be sent, or is this just something where enough people have to tell where it's seriously addressed?
Ooh, Not great. Let's ask that again. Let me make sure I understand your question.
What do you think with on the heels of what Iowa did, and it was pretty public, your head coach is named in the tampering, because before we've seen coaches at the podium accuse another coach.
Yeah, you find a scapegoat.
Right? And you're saying, hey, I know this guy did this, but there's public acknowledgement that this happened at Iowa. What do you think has to happen? Can the NCAA do enough now that you have something that's tangible and that you can prove?
It's going to take 5 more of these for the NCAA to do something. I really like slap on the wrist, vacate wins. They're not going to be the last. And I don't know that, like, using, Iowa as like these are your set of punishments. Is it going to prevent people from, whether it's accidental or it's intentional, is the punishment severe enough to completely change the game? And I don't know, in the instance of Iowa and what's happened there, and then the ruling yesterday, I don't know that that's enough. It's not heavy enough to completely squash tampering from happening in the future.
All right, I'll get you out on this just because it was so elite, and it was the first thing that I saw in your snack pack. Who in the house is the Poppables fan? It is the most underappreciated chip, I think, on the market, in the game right now. Poppables are truly elite.
They were stale.
Oh.
The worst part of the whole thing. Oh. I was so excited to put them in there, because I think my wife and I probably enjoy the Poppables more than the kids do.
Yeah.
So the overall fans on the Poppables are the adults in the room. The kids, they're like Ravi. They want more chocolate in there. So yes, the grocery run included.
I said salty snack. I want like some Doritos in there.
Dude, that pack job was sensational.
Maybe like a little charcuterie snacks,
Oh, bougie.
Just so you know, I got some criticism on the Snackle box packing from this past week. So
who gave it to you?
What's that?
Who gave you the criticism?
The kids. Because they're like Ravi. So yes, we now have Chips Ahoy in the pantry that we can throw in the mini Chips Ahoy next time.
Let's go.
It's funny you mentioned Doritos, because I was the grocery shopper yesterday morning, and of all the chips that I got, Doritos was one of them. So they're going to find their way in this upcoming weekend. I'm the high protein guy, so I'm all about, the nuts, the ham, the beef sticks, all that stuff. Apparently beef sticks are secondary to beef jerky. So I got shamed about the beef sticks choice for the Snackle box. That was the first time I'd packed it this baseball season. So you live, you learn. I know what not to put in there. I thought it was great.
You're clearly a lot nicer guy than me.
I feel like we're doing like a post-game presser, and Kevin's like, it was the first game out this season. Got to learn from our mistakes.
We'll get better.
We're gonna get better game by game. We just gotta, we're gonna make some adjustments, but I think our process is right.
But I was confident in the game plan. We just didn't execute it.
I'm glad we waited to get this segment in. Suits, always fantastic, man. I appreciate you.
Do you guys want the updated Snackle box pictures moving forward? Like,
Yes,
do we have to do that?
Yeah, I need like a weekly Snackle box.
This is gonna be a thing,
because I need to know that the kids are getting the treats they need.
Saturday morning, look out, check the feed. It's going to be on there for you.
Next, they'll be arguing about Gatorade versus Gatorade Zero, and let's just be like, look, do you want to go thirsty or not?
No, you got to have a variety, DB. Like the Gatorade, sometimes you need a little bit of sugar, sometimes you don't. Like maybe I'm a little more sensitive to that because I'm diabetic. But then you got the Gator Lights that have the extra electrolytes in them, and then you have the Gator Light Zeros. And don't even get me started on Propel Water. Get that stuff out of here.
V8 energy drinks. That's the hot thing in our house right now.
Oh, I saw those. Those are for those little cans. They're kind of expensive, though.
Well, that's why you get them in bulk, because they're pretty popular with our kids.
Are those supposed to be chilled, or is it either or?
I don't know. We keep them chilled.
Okay.
My older son absolutely he loves them, and I would much rather have him have that than one of the 15 different monsters that somehow find their way on our countertop.
Yeah, don't let him watch the show, because I'll roll up here with a C4 every once in a while. They're too young for that. Don't let them.
Dude,
do
he
that.
knocked out 2 the other day. I was like scared.
Listen, I had a tough
goodness.
night. I had a tough night.
I'll pray for your heart.
Man.
All right, Kevin, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you later. I look forward to the new snack update.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. All right. Be well, boys.
That is Kevin Suits, 1011 News in Lincoln.
You're so bougie.
No, listen, I just want like a little, a little cheese, a little salami, just a little. I like that he brought up nuts. I like, so throw some cashews in there. I'm a big pistachio guy.
I promise. I know we've teased it. We're gonna cold call Micah.
Okay.
Especially this week because a lot of schools have been in, so you can ask him about recruiting.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't, I would really have to do something. If he complained about the varying degrees of what I packed, I have not done a good job.
What's going to cause you to choke him out faster? Complaining about the snacks that you packed, or him asking you about the caption on an Instagram post?
The Instagram post. We start getting into that territory, it's over.
He doesn't seem like that. Like that doesn't seem like something he would care that much about.
I told him, you tag more than 2 people, don't hit send.
What if you're one of them?
That don't count.
All right, that's TB. I'm Rob.
Today they're in this morning, Kobe.
It's about time.
Well, they said the 15th.
Well, it's about time, man. Can't be letting other people up in there.
Stop it.
Just going to Ames. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow. More Hurrdat Sports Live.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.